Now, to kick off this morning's workshop, I would like to invite Architect Ren Tan, PEM Council Member and Chairman of the POP, Promotion of Professional Committee, to deliver his welcome speech. Please welcome Architect Ren Tan with a big round of applause.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming to our POP mini workshop today. Thanks our convener, Architect Alia, our co-convener, Architect Noraini, and also our sponsor, Nippon Pen, for bringing all the stages up for us to have a wonderful speaker for us today. We are delighted to have all of you here today, either you're architect, designer, professional, who care not only to create a great spaces, but also about building a sustainable and successful practices. Today, architecture is not just about design, but also on architecture, practice, and management. This workshop is built around a simple truth. Being a great design is no longer enough. It's today's profession. Architect must be able to navigate compliance, taxation, invoicing. This is the most difficult part for me. And branding for sure. These are the essential skills that we think to keep a practice resilient, relevant, and future ready is very important for all of us here. That's why this workshop brings together our leading voices in practice, taxes, and of course branding, to cut through the confusion, share the real strategies, and equip you with the tools that you can immediately apply after this in your own firm or your organization. We have 3 focuses today. Session 1 will be having practice and management and compliance by Architect Tuan Sek. And Section 2, we will have audit, SST, and e-invoice with our tax lady later on. And last but not least, we will have a branding marketing by Architect Miguel. Before we begin, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our keynote speaker, Architect Syed Sobri, for joining us today and share his insight on reality on architecture, practice, and leadership. Your presence truly enriched this workshop and set the tone of meaningful discussion ahead. We want to thank all our speakers, facilitator, convener, and participant for being part of us today. Let's make today an engaging and productive session. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy the workshop today.
Okay, thank you, Architect Ren, for the inspiring opening. Next, we will hear from our proud sponsor, Nippon Paint, Nippon Paint, for who will share a short product presentation. As we all know, architects design the vision, but it's the finishing that brings the vision to life. Please welcome the representative from Nippon Paint, Christina Chong, Marketing Executive, with a big round of applause. Ada tak?
Hi, morning everyone. Okay, I'm Christina from Nippon Paint. Okay, so I'm sure you all know very well Nippon Paint is actually a paint coating. So right now we're actually introducing something called TCCS, which is Total Coating and Construction Solution. So it's just not only paint expert anymore. Okay, so this one-stop anti-patchiness system I will go through later, but first of all I will do a slight introduction of Nippon. Okay, so as you all know, Nippon is still #1 in Asia. Okay, so we are now beyond coating. Okay, and of course, geographically, we are 22 geographical country. Actually, it's already 27. Okay, so Asia #1. Of course, globally, we are #4. Okay, so these are some of the iconic projects that we actually did go. So we have the bird nest, and then we have the Singapore Sports Hub, of course, New Delhi, and also Osaka lah. Okay, so these are some of the brand awards, brand confidence awards that we have throughout the years. Okay, so this is what we call TCCS, Total Coating and Construction Solution. Okay, so to introduce the one-stop anti-patchiness system for internal wall surface, okay, this is actually a combination together with Nippon Paint and CMI. Okay, CMI is a dry mix company who deal with skim coats and renders. Okay, so as you all know, patchiness on internal wall, normally we have like shadowing, tiger strips, or even rough surface appearance and all that. But it's not just because of paint or the skin coat, because sometimes the things that we use or how we mix is actually also a problem. Okay, so normally how to have an even paint surface is actually also based on your skin coat quality. Okay, and also your weather and also your temperature during site. Okay, all these might have different occurrence. Okay, so the paint absorption, of course, we will go. The not so good one will be the very low paint absorption rate, but of course the better one will be the very high paint absorption rate. Okay. Okay, so normally we say what causes the difference of paint absorption on the skim coat. So normally sometimes after you skim, so normally you have like overly compressed skim, or you skim on skim. Skim on skim meaning you skim too many rounds, okay? Or sometimes you over mixing it. Let's say for example, you're supposed to mix 3 to 5 minutes, but you decided to go for more than that, up to 10 minutes or so. So when you over mix, right, it will cause a different outcome, okay? Sometimes if you over skim, you will have that powdery surface on your wall. So again, your different paint absorption will come out and appear again, okay? So for us, we're introducing our skim coat. So from base coat to finish coat, this finish coat is called Waskin 681 Plus. It's one of our upgraded version of our finish coat. Okay, this one will actually help to reduce the patchiness for internal. Then together with Nippon Paint, the sealer, and also their paint finish. So this one will have a warranty system. Okay, normally internal we will not have any warranty system. Okay, so if you use the full system, you get the warranty. Okay, for 2 years DLP period. Okay. So of course, if you see from here, we have the premium system and the standard system. For skim coat, it still be the same. It's just that the paint will have different version. Okay, the premium version and the standard version of paint for internal. Okay, so if you can see here, this is the final step. Okay, so these are normally the warranty that we come out from, because it depends on what kind of wall that you're using. Okay, so we have different system. Okay, because for base coat especially, when it comes to lightweight block, we will not use the standard base skim coat. We will use a lightweight block version of skim coat. Okay. Okay, so we will play a video. so thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you to Nippon Paint for your continued support of PEM and our profession.
All right, thank you, Christina. Okay, next will be the keynote address. Okay, we're honored to have with us our keynote speaker, Architect Syed Sobri Syed Ismail from GDP Architects, Sdn Bhd. So a little bit about him. Architect Syed Sobri graduated from the Architectural Association School of Architecture, AA London, and began his career with JKR Kuala Lumpur before lecturing at UTM Kuala Lumpur. He later joined BEP Architects, and in the 1990s, he co-founded GDP Architects Sdn Bhd, which has since become one of Malaysia's leading architecture practice. His international experience include 5 years in Abu Dhabi, contributing to the Al Reem Island development. He now serves as the Managing Director of GDP and Properties Sdn Bhd, continuing GDP vision of design excellence through ventures such as the Penchala 188 residency. He will be sharing valuable insight on how architects can build not just great buildings, but great brands. So please welcome Architect Syed Sobri Syed Ismail with a big round of applause. Yep.
Thank you. This is the old school. I carry this. They use laptop. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone, fellow architects and friends. On behalf of POP, thank you for coming here. Yeah, I am truly happy to be here today to speak on a subject that lies very dear to our heart or very close to our heart, our profession, okay, which is business architects in practice. I'm not good at public speaking, so bear with me. I have to be frank, okay? I am now at the tail end of my professional journey, okay? It has been more than 40 years. 40 years of 4 decades of eating, sleeping, and working and talking architecture. Life has been good, no complaints, okay? On the other hand, I am looking at the younger groups, younger generations. I think you guys are at the beginning or at the early stage of your career. Okay? As graduate architects or practicing architects or other professional related to the building industry. I would like to take this opportunity to share some of my personal experiences as a practicing architect. In Malaysia, we often think and talk of architecture as an art form. We see architecture as being about visions, beauty, and design aesthetic. We rarely talk about architecture and business in the same breath. We don't realize that behind every remarkable piece of architectural works stands a reality we sometimes overlook. That is the business part of the practice. Hopefully, let this event trigger a desire among fellow architects for self-improvement and betterment in this area. Today's architecture is changing rapidly from the simplicity of forms and functions to a more meaningful dynamics of creating beautiful, wonderful spaces and places. The entire process of designing buildings and the built environment has decisively shifted towards sustainability, energy conservation, and ESG, which is environmental social governance, green-friendly buildings are no longer an option. They are now essentials and necessities when you design building. The whole world is now moving in this direction, and so are we. How much we embrace this global shift and how far we go depends on how market ready we are in terms of resources, ESG, and so forth, and also how competitive we are. Okay? Architecture is more than just drawings and 3D models. It is about managing. It's about management and managing ideas, people, and resources. Every project we undertake, whether it's big or small, is not just a creative journey. It is also a business venture that demands strategy, discipline, and foresight. To thrive as an architect today, it is often said that we have to wear two hats. One is that of a designer, and the other is that of an entrepreneur or a business person. We must also understand budget as well as blueprints, contract as well as concept, and we must also understand our clients' needs as deeply as our creative vision. I'm glad and happy to know that this morning we have three important topics by excellent speakers in their own rights. I will not introduce them. There is somebody else's scope of work. Acquiring knowledge is an endless exercise, okay? Highly important and necessary exercise for us to better ourselves in whatever world we are in. Whatever you learn during your academic years is not enough. You need at least another 5 years of working exposure to unlearn and to relearn architecture in practice in the business world. Yeah? The three topics this morning are important. They are necessary tools for architects to be professionally able and capable to perform the duties and responsibilities in your daily business practice. The talk shall be on management and compliance, SST and e-invoicing, branding, marketing, and practice visibility. I'm not sure what this is, but the speaker will explain later. Okay? Yeah. Okay, now a bit more of my experience. Running a practice is more than keeping your office lights on every day. Yeah? It is more than just paying monthly office rental, salaries, and invoices. Running an office is about business of creating values for your company. When you start an office, I'm sure your ultimate goal is success. It's not easy as it sounds, but first you have to get projects in. Then manage the office in total, in its true sense of the word. You have to put all priorities in order. Okay? The company's financial health is also a priority. Manage it well at the early stage or at the start of your business. If you are thinking a Porsche or BMW at the very beginning, I think you should take it out of your mind. Okay? It is something, the last thing that you want to have in your mind now. Okay? Okay. It's funny though. I want to speak naturally, but I'm looking at this reading. So there's a conflict there, okay? Anyway, never mind. It's funny though, through the years, I have come to realize and conclude that not all architects like to do business. Okay? Not all architects are good in business. Maybe in their mindset, there is a fear factor, or just they don't like to do management works, or They only like to draw and draw and draw. Is that true? I have also simplified my understanding of architects in practice. Business to me is a game. We are playing the game. If you want to play the game, you must first understand the game. You must first understand the rules and regulation of the game. Who are the players in the game? What skills must you have to excel and win the game? Ultimately, who will benefit financially when the game ends? This is a summary of architects in business. It's just another game. Can you accept that or no? Anyway, okay. I know many of you, this is specific to the younger groups. I know many of you have taken the jump straight into business after getting your Part 3 professional license. Okay, I can't blame you all. You are young, eager and excited. Can't wait another day. You'll be screaming, I want to be architect with capital A now. Okay, that is your feeling, I think. Young people often have more emotions than brains, if I may say so, to guide them in their quest for excellence. I am very qualified to make that statement because I was one of them at one time. Okay. Regrettably, many did not do well in the effort to become architects because they were not ready, they don't know what they are getting into, and they don't know the game but bold enough to jump into the practice, into the game. Locally, I would say emotions banyak, business skill tak pandai. Let me give you some pointers as guide to those who are starting business. Number one, in business, you must know the game. Okay. In business, you must also know the players. In business, you must know the industry. In business, you must know resources, cost, and value. In business, you must know supply and demand. In business, you must know marketing. In business, specifically in Malaysia, you must have friends. Okay, these are all important points. It will be a checklist for those who want to start business. Finally, you must have the right mindset to do business. This is very important. Business has a different mindset from consultants or professionals. Okay, a business mindset is very fluid. I'm doing comparison. Compared to consultants and professionals' mindset. Fluid means it is ever changing and moving smoothly without force. Eventually, it'll come to a stop of finality. Okay? In business, decisions are made now, may not be relevant tomorrow. And decision made tomorrow may come back to the decision made just now. Is that clear? Now there's no interaction, so susah. I would rather ask and get kickback and all that. Anyway, I have not done keynote address before. This is my first time. Okay? I am more on the interacting type. Okay? Anyway, in business, I continue. You don't wait for business to come to you. You must make it happen. Go out, search for opportunities. You may start small, create your own projects, learn the trade and business in your own way and time. Build your business slowly with commitment in doing so. The final advice, don't wait for handouts. Okay? Do you know that there are many landowners who do not know what to do with their land or how to unlock their potential values? This is addressing specifically to architects. This is where architects should come in and give ideas what to do. Unless you got no ideas what to do, then you got problem. Okay? Do you know Also, there are also many old colonial government quarters in and around Kuala Lumpur, which are abandoned. Some are occupied but badly maintained. They are all located in premium addresses with great potential and business opportunity. These are the things that you all should be looking for, opportunities. Okay? And then I just want to ask you, do you know, are you aware that the biggest client for architects is the government of the day? So tomorrow, Monday, go and register with MOF. Okay? Okay. Yeah? Yet, while we embrace the business side, we must never lose sight of our ethical duties and public trust. Public trust is very important image you must build for your company. As professionals, we serve the community. Our work shapes how people live, work, and connect. Profit is important, but purpose is essential. Okay? The true success of a business architect lies not in financial gain, but in the lasting impact we create for society. Lastly, looking ahead, the world of architecture is changing rapidly. Digital transformation, sustainability, and global collaboration are reshaping how we work and live today. To maintain relevance, we must innovate, not only in design, but also in how we manage our business. We must adapt, embrace technology, and think beyond our desktop screen. In short, we must learn to design our practice with the same creativity we bring to our building. And lastly, I just want to share with you, I'm supposed to do 15 minutes. No, I just want to share something. I was asked this question recently, okay? Somebody approached me and said, Tuan Syed, you have been in the building industry playing the role of an architect under the flagship of GDP Architects for the last 35 years and occasionally directly involved in the development and growth of Kuala Lumpur city. Works you have completed include the Pavilion Bukit Bintang, Equatorial Office Hotel, Jalan Sultan Sulaiman, Lalaport Bukit Bintang, Escort KLCC, Mandarin Oriental, just to name a few. My question is, why venture into property development now, after successfully carving a good name for GDP Architects, Sdn Bhd? Why be a developer? Okay, that is the current issues with me. Okay, my answer, GDP Architects Sdn Bhd is our flagship company with 6 subsidiaries under its umbrella. Each is functioning and providing services related to the building industry in one way or another. GDP Architects carry this principle that when something good comes your way, take it and make sure you deliver PAM goal. This unwritten principle has been embedded in GDP's architects' work culture. Okay? Our pilot project, Penchala 188, came about a few years later after we bought the land in Sungai Penchala in 2017. In 2020, we decided to do this development. This project will be designed in ways we think best for the end users. We also believe it is very important, in order to design good buildings, we must understand the needs of the end users. They are the ones who are going to stay, work and live in this building for the rest of their life. Okay? Opportunities to do the above was not available to us as practicing architects, especially when you are working with clients, developers, and government agencies. They will tell you what they want, and you just do. You do. Okay? So finally, we have this opportunity to take a shot at Penchala 188, and that is how GDP Properties Sundria Berhad started. How far we will go, only God knows. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Syed Sobri, for that motivating keynote. Now, for session 1, we will be hearing from Architect Syed Muhammad Radi Syed Sakaf, who will speak on practice, management and compliance. Briefly about him, Architect Syed Muhammad Radi is a registered architect since 2005, interior designer and Green Building Index (GBI) facilitator since 2012, with over 25 years of professional experience. He has worked with firms and councils in the UK as well as established practices in Kuala Lumpur, including Pancha Indra Architect, the Architectural Network and RAM Architect. Currently, Principal of SM Radi Design Practice and Director of ZSR. He leads the long-running ZSR Part 3 study group and Young Architect class. Beyond practice and education, he is also actively involved in volunteerism and serve as a trustee of My Care. So this session will focus on managing architectural practices effectively while maintaining compliance and professionalism. Please welcome Architect Syed Muhammad Radi Syed Sakaf with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum. Hearing what Tuan Syed said just now, we are not from the same clan, Tuan Syed. And I think I take the blame being one of those young architects who jumped straight into the business after you pass your Part 3. Many of us share that blame, I believe. And if I can quick recall of our time, those days, I will mention the years, it will reflect my age. And the exam Part 3 was conducted in June, and then the result come out about August, September. So we have just enough time to register ourselves, to register our company, and start the new office in January of the next year. That's what happened to me when I joined a friend of mine who just started a year before, and we embarked on the journey that lasted more than 20 years as of it is today. Well, being young architects, those days, we all had a dream. You don't tell engineers you have a dream, they will get creepy. An architect's dream is an engineer's nightmare. And we all had a dream that we have our own firm, we have our own office, our name in front of the door, we have those AR title in front of our name cards. We give it to everybody, didn't ask for it or didn't ask for it, since we have printed it so many. And, well, it is filled with, we dream our office filled full of beautiful models. Well, surely it's building models, I mean. Exciting projects. We have seen GDP projects at the middle of the KLCC. We wish one day our name in the signboard along Jalan Raja Chulan or Jalan Sultan Ismail. Kan? And unfortunately, not until today. And not yet, inshallah. Kan? So those are all the so-called romantic vision that we have when we first all fall in love in architecture. But the day you first start your own business, I believe, and Pam shared with us the backgrounds of the participants today. And the way I see it, many of you are either young architects have maybe just past party of thinking to embark on your own office journey, or those props which just started. And when it comes, only then we know what we call baru tahu langit tinggi rendah. Kan? Baru tahu dalamnya laut. We never tested before how deep the ocean is. Now we know. So it comes with hard reality to me. And then we know that architects I'm not just become an architect anymore, the way I used to be when I was working 10 years before. But that day or the day after, I become an accountant, I become an office manager, I become a human resource manager, I become a compliance officer. At times, you become the cleaner of your own office. You become the courier. You become everything that what it takes to be. There's no complaint anymore. Because there's nobody for you to complain. You are the top already. That's the reality of life. As Tan Syed said again, not all architects like to run a business or to open a business. Not all architects want to do business. Obviously, being a businessman does not come naturally for an architect. We have not even, when we talk about trying to be an architect, the beautiful of being an architect, the buildings, all the designs, since the first year, nobody ever told us about running an office. But somehow, like it or not, that's our own decision that we make it today. We thought after so hard studying for part 3, we passed it. I think we never come across that we sort of have to start all over again, studying business. Studying business of running an architectural practice, which is totally a different game from being an architect, as being a designer or a contract manager and so on. It's architecture practice as a business is far more complex. We will try to break out a little bit today, obviously within the limited time today. We may not be able to cover everything in depth, but I hope I can give you a scan of the overall picture. And at least you know there are things that you should look for after this. Things that, oh, you never come across that, I have to prepare for that. I have to know this and know that. Then we open up the door for you, you explore the rooms by yourself. Architecture is one of the professions where the beauty of the products often hides the pain behind it. But again, how do you? Okay. But no pain, no gain. Or as the Malay proverb said, kalau tidak dipecahkan ruyungnya, mana akan dapat sagunya. We decide, we know what's coming, we are prepared for it. That's the journey that we consciously decide, you consciously decide. Let's share together. Nobody, I think not even me, can teach you how to run business. I'm sorry to say, even maybe Tuan Syed cannot teach you. Because what we have been through before, or anybody have been through before, with what you are going through, will be going through after this, would be totally a different thing. Especially nowadays where business have changed. All sort of business has changed in every way. We never thought after COVID that online business can be so big. And it almost taken over so many traditional shops and businesses. So as professional services have changed, be prepared for it. Most of you are still in your 30s or early 40s. At least you have 20 years, 15 years, or 30 years in front of you. Those days when we do the planning, we can say 1 to 3 years short-term planning, 5 years mid-term planning, 10 years long-term planning. Today, 3 years is no planning can predict for it. Even your long-term planning does not last for 3 years. Things change almost daily. Okay. So that's what I want to share a little bit today, not to teach you, not to sort of lecture you, but I hope I can share some of what we have been through, some of the mistakes that we have did that maybe you don't have to do. Jangan masuk lubang biawak yang sama. Practice that can survive and hope can thrive in the Malaysian context especially. Okay. Then we have next slide. To start with, let's start off on the right foot. Maybe some of the items or topics I share with you a little bit, about procedures, technicals. Some are just throwing ideas of what it might be in the future. Architects Act 1967, we all studied in our exam. And like it or not, it's allow only architectural consultancy practice to offer architectural consultancy services. Means that if you want to practice your architecture, like it or not, you must have an office. Like it or not, you must get into business. But obviously, you can start an office simply out of your passion in architecture just because you think you are ready for it or you are inspired to it. But there are many technicalities you have to go through. You have to form your practice, you have to properly register your practice, and to ensure it's a legitimate practice for your own sustainability, and then you can practice your architecture. You must comply with all the laws and practice good governance. You are professionals. You are bound by your duties, your responsibility, ethics, accountabilities. So those are the basics that you have to start. Make sure you start on the right foot. Kanan kiri. Kanan. Oh. Okay, fine. Let's look a little bit into some boring topics maybe. Compliance and registrations. And obviously, first we start with our mother, Lembaga Architects, LAM. There are 2 registration you have to register and maintain your registration. Obviously, first, you as an professional architects. And secondly, to register your practice, whatever it's going to be. I won't go into that details of how much P you have to fill, or what form of you have to fill. And all those are available in the website of LAM. And yes, you have to maintain your CPD. By right, continuing education for us, be with or without CPD being asked for you, it should be naturally come to every architect that you have for the sustainability of yourself, for sustainability of your practice, and for the goods of architecture, of your service. We always have to improve ourselves, isn't it? Nobody can ever say that they have enough knowledge, especially nowadays, new knowledge coming in almost daily. What we learned before can be good precedents to us, a good background for us as a learning curve, but we have to look forward always for what news to come. So be prepared. You have to collect 20 points every year. Don't feel so burdened about collecting 20 points and start counting every month how many points you get, every week checking with lembaga how many points do you have. And there are so many ways that can you actually obtain your CPD points. Hari ni dapat berapa point? The best place to gain your points is you went to programs conducted by LAM. They are so generous because they can give as many as they want just to attract people coming in. And yes, first get your professional registration in order. And then it comes where you have to submit or you have to decide about registering your practice. In a normal sense, for those who are so eager to submit or to start their practice as soon as they pass their part 3, normally once you submit for your professional registration, many people submit it together with their practice already. Yeah? As you know, there are 4 types of practice: the sole props, the partnerships, and the multidisciplinary, as well as the body corporate, architectural body corporate. And well, there are some technicalities of the program of the practices. Next, please. Next slide, please. And yeah. So proprietorship, as you all know, is very much you are the practice and the practice is you. Especially when it comes tax come in. Okay? And partnership, we have the convention, I call it conventional partnership because a couple of years ago being introduced as we have nowadays, we have the so-called limited liability partnership. And I believe this particular form is not so famous among the architects. And maybe because it's neither here nor there between SOPROP and the Sendia Berhad. Those days, if you found names like Architect Abu dan Rakan-Rakan, those normally are those partnerships. And we have the body corporates. Basically, when we say the body corporates means those who are registered beside with lembaga, you are registering also with the SSM, Suruhanjaya Syarikat Malaysia. And that means for both the architectural body corporate as well as the multidisciplinary practice. And nowadays, for the architectural body corporates, the SSM have allowed or introduced for a single director. And I believe you heard before people saying about syarikat RM2. RM2 company. Because that's the minimum number that you need to form a Sendia Berhad. 2 partners, which RM1 each capital. Syarikat RM2, dapat projek 100 juta. Itu yang kita duk marah tu kan. And anyway, the technical part of it aside, Next slide, please. Oh, don't bother reading this. I just trying to show off all this. Miguel, you got it in the class already. No need to. You all went through in your part 3 study. Don't bother reading it anyway. And I just want to show that beside all these technicalities, I think the bigger reason which one you would choose to practice or to be your form of practice is about what you want to do and what you are planning to achieve at the end of the day. There are some people who just happy with his own, doing some small projects, being boutique architects. And you don't have to go trying to compete with everybody else, trying to fetch or to chase every single tenders. Nowadays, you have to tender for the consultancy as well. But decide what suits you best, how you can perform as individual, or are you a team player, are you going big? Those will actually affect, or those will give more impact on your future planning. Okay? Can we go back 2 slides? Or just to mention, if you register for sole prop, I believe many of you have come across when your client asks for the SSM registration. And you're trying to tell them, no, we don't have registration SSM, we only register with Lembaga. How can? Everybody must register with SSM. And yes, registration under the Registration of Business Act 1956 allows those companies who are, if I may read, any profession which under the provision of any written law can be exercised only by those who possess certain qualification prescribed by such a written law, in our case will be the Architects Act, and whose names are registered or otherwise recorded in a manner prescribed by the written law. So it's allowed for us who have registered with our professional body, Lembaga, to be exempted from the SSM. Just a simple explanation to clients who are asking you or trying to sort of out you from the game. And back slide, ke belakang balik. I think I haven't finished the one more. Go to the back, not to the front. To the back. Yeah. Oh, I just want to mention a quick one, talking about registration. Nowadays, you have to be aware regarding the land boss. I think the circulars, it started, was effective since last year. As of it is now, it's only contained or applied to housing projects, where the developers actually, the day they register for the housing development license, and they have to key in your name as the appointed architect as part of the requirement. So in a sense, it's basically, it says about all the payment as far as that housing project is concerned will be paid through Lembaga, and Lembaga will pay to you. The pro and cons of it, let's have another session. Okay? Otherwise, we will never end today. But I think in a way it's a good start. Obviously, it will not solve everything. I know it's just not up to the extent, up to the expectation of many architects, especially who are expecting that this so-called law and land boss will actually regulate our fee, and it may not be there yet. But it's a start that maybe at least after this, Lembaga have the record who are charging how much. Okay, next. Next. Okay. Beside the registration with lembaga, you have statutory registration that you have to. If you are Sendian Berhad, you have to register with the Suruhanjaya Syarikat, of course, SSM. And registration with SSM got to be done, you have to appoint a company secretary to do that. Okay. Be aware that obviously beside, nowadays, yes, like it or not, part of the business requirement, people or the clients have more trust, or to say have better trust to companies with the SSM registrations. Not to blame, because with SSM registration, it comes with all sorts of regulation that you have actually to properly govern or regulate or manage your company, including all those audited and accounts. So they are, in a way, should be well or better managed. So many clients, especially all those big developers, public listed developers, only those who are registered with SSM or have a Sendian Berhad can only register with them. Registration with income tax and LHDN, your personal as well as business is concerned. If you are a sole prop, means you are using the same account, the same personal account of your LHDN as the business. Means at the end of the day, whatever you gain from the office, from your practice, will be part of your personal tax. And I won't elaborate on that because we have another session on this this afternoon after this. So please ask them a lot, learn a lot from them. That's part of what Tuan Syed said before, you have to know the game. And nowadays we have SST, registration with SST, and e-invoicing also, something like that I believe will be covered after this. Registration with EPF, KWSP, PEKESO, SOTSO. Bear in mind, sometimes you do calculations for your staff salary. On top of that, there are contributions for the EPF. Don't miss that, because quite a big chunk of it. And beware of other labor laws. Beware of other labor laws, talking about the entitlement of your staff especially. You can't blame them, that's their right. How many days, how many hours per day? How about working on the public holidays? How about when you ask them to come to finish up the tender drawing on Sundays and Saturdays? What's their right? So be aware of that. Like it or not, it's nothing to do with so-called architecture design anymore, but this is the business of running an architectural practice. Next. There are others. Tuan Syed again mentioned registration with Kementerian Kewangan, MOF. If you are looking for government job or even government agencies, subsidiaries, other government agencies, developers, just through. And obviously, the way we promote ourselves is not that we have a big billboard in front of our office, but at least to get the people know of your presence. This is the way you knock their doors. And a simple thing, this is the simple rule. You can be a very good architect. You can have a perfect office. But if nobody knows you are there, it means nothing, isn't it? So you have to sort of tell them, I'm here, I'm ready to serve. And, well, I put the other one, PCWD, after this. That's not really a registration, it's one of the risks, actually. And people talking about the professional indemnity on us. And many clients, even governments, start asking you to have the professional indemnity insurance. In the current practice today, in the complex laws that around us, in the higher risks and liabilities, it's good to have. It's not yet at least compulsory, but it's good to have. But at least know your rights. Who should pay when the client asks for the PII? With or without the insurance, you will still be fully responsible for everything that you did. So basically, the insurance is just a second safety net, just to make sure if you are being sued or you have to fork out some money, then they can help to pay for whatever that you need. But since basically it's covered, your responsibility is always there. So whoever who asks for the second safety net, which is on top of your standard service, basically they should pay for it. Okay? I know many architects, whenever the client asks for it, and you just simply take it with or I know if you are willingly to take for it, just because maybe one of your marketing tools, it could be that we have insurance. Client have more confidence, so be it. Okay? And there are, in general, there are two types of insurances you can take. Either it's a project basis, or you can take that cover for your whole office for any projects for the same, for every year. And I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about, for an insurance of a project basis that covers about 1 million ringgit, and the premium is about 5,000 ringgit or less, even less. Okay, so actually it's not that much. And software licensing nowadays, those software are very good capitalists. They don't sell the one-off software anymore. You have to register and pay every year. How much it costs you for the basic AutoCAD? Don't talk about Revit yet. Basic AutoCAD will cost you what? 7,000 a year. Out of that 7,000 a year that you bought AutoCAD that can do everything on earth, how much actually you use it? 90% of it? 70% of it? 50% of it? Most of it is just drafting 2D, isn't it? Next. Okay. If I may, and summarize this one, some capitals or financial part of it. This just to give some idea about, to scare you maybe, about setting up an office. And next, just go to the next one. Okay, I just put a simple one. Assuming someone just about to start an office, and with some possible expenses versus some possible income. So to make it more attractive, even though it end up not so attractive anyway, I try to minimize the expenses. This is at least what you can do. And maybe the basic or the average income you can get within your 1 year. And with some expenses on the registration, office renovation, minimum office renovation, you rent empty office, you don't do all those, just an big open office, everything's there, including all you, the boss, 10,000. Nowadays, you really do any proper office renovation, even 50,000 is nothing. And some furnitures, maybe equipments, hardwares and softwares, and other miscellaneous. You need some capitals of, say I put over there, around 30,000 to start off. And there are some monthly expenses you have to consider, and your utility bills, internet, and your office rental, other miscellaneous expenses, I just put their stationaries and so on, including the salaries. I think put 8,000 for a principal still very conservative, isn't it? Very high, is it? GDP said high, I don't know what to say. Nobody else can complain anything when one side said 8,000 is high. Okay? And you always wish, you said, hey, before I resign, when in my part 2, I even got more than 8. How can when I principal 8, I at least 10 and above? Try to put 10 and above lah. You can survive for 1 month and the next one, who I'm going to pay you 10? Yes. True, enough. Trying to recall, I believe many of you have done. In my first year, there are months that we didn't even take our salary. Okay, at least you just put one, and the admin staff that can do the accounting as well, and maybe you want one support technical staff, and that will end up, I put 14,000 a month, plus some multiplier for you to pay for the EPF and so on. End up on 17,500 for that. And say we jump for 12 months, that will take you 210,000 for the monthly expenses, plus your capital expenses. And so to put a cash flow forward, to start an office and to be at least expenses or the fund that you need for the very first year, simply goes to 300,000. You can make a cash flow at least for 6 months, at least, because you can be so proud of whatever job you get. But when will you get the first payment? 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, isn't it? Okay, so assuming that's your say you have a target that you must have at least 300,000 to start the first year. Then what will you gain in that first year? What's your income for that first year? So I put a simple assumption, assume within the first year, you can secure a few jobs, which in total about, say, 5 million, not much. And it's about maybe you can get a fee of 6%. I know some of you, where got 6%? Well, this is at least based on your SOMF. That's why you have, you cannot compromise on that. Or at least for the sake of, it's recorded today, I cannot say anything less. But let's see the reality of it. Even if, say you got a job of 5 million, and in average you get a 6% fee, that will have about 300,000 fee for that year. And you see, you have expenses 300,000, you have an income of 300,000, more or less that. But don't forget, that 300,000 for the whole job until you finish. What job will finish in a year? Not even a bungalow, isn't it? So assuming I just put a simple assumption that within 1 year, maybe you can go up to the most, say, it's ready, you can, after you submitting all the KM, submitting all the BP, preparing the tender, then you are about to start for the construction. So maybe you can go up to the contract documentation phase, you have covered, for at least for that first year, you can cover or you can claim up to 75%. Next page. Just to put a simple cash flow together between what you are spending every month for that first 1 year and what you may, I just put 2 months, the first 2 months, you don't get anything. And maybe in real life, you don't even get 4, 5, 6 months. And then you may end up be able to collect at the end of the year around 75% of it, of your claim, that will be 210,000, compared to the 300,000 that you have spent for that year. There's still shortage of almost 100,000. And at what point it will actually come to your ROI? Just to put, at least, I believe in general, the maths or the formula remain the same. You can change the figures to suit you. But at least the format is there. You can, now you have some idea, 5 million job for the first year is not enough. So I have to go for 10 million, 15 million. I cannot go lower than 6%. Anything less than that, I will not be able to survive. Expenses, I cannot buy yet those BMW and Porsche in the first year. Be patient. Minimize your expenses. So you have all the, basically, the variables over here. But just to say that it's not that easy. You have to plan forward. I just put a simple 1-year cash flow to say that you really have to prepare for it. This is real business. And you're talking about real life. You cannot simply jump and try your luck because it's your life, especially you have families to feed. You have staff to pay. They have families to feed. So you just cannot simply take them this month and terminate the next month. So it's a commitment of life that you have to give. Next. Or go back to the previous one. What time? Lagi 10 minit. Okay, I just, next, to the front. Emergency fund, I said, at least whatever it is, and besides you have to pay your monthly, yearly expenses, try to build up your so-called emergency fund of at least, I would advise, 6 months. And we never imagine in our life that something like COVID will happen for at least 2 years. So I believe most of us, whatever emergency fund we have, is all dried out. And so 6 months is nothing. Manpower and logistics, and decide in the office, not only how many, but obviously you have to decide who you want to employ and what to do, and their form, their type of appointment, either you engage them permanently or part-time or temporary. You have to think differently. You cannot simply take the standard conventional office, trying on the first day, get everybody on board, everybody perfect office, everything, and the second month, you have no money to employ anymore. Office equipment, as we mentioned just now, some basic things to start with, but whatever you have to spend for it, the hardwares and the software. Nowadays, not only the softwares, which is expensive, that the hardware have to cope with it, obviously. And there are options for the rental of computers. Even think about it, you don't actually have to pay or upgrade every 6 months. Next. Okay, now that those are some preparations before you start. Assuming you have started your office, once you have started, there are other compliances that you have to look through while you are running your office. Architect's rules give you the code of conduct that you have, how you have to conduct yourself and along the way running your office. Condition of engagement, how you secure your projects. And Dr. Miguel will talk about this, how you promote yourself, the branding, getting some jobs, and how do you secure that particular jobs is another story sometimes. Okay? Statutory obligation, do not forget, you as a PSP, the responsibility, the liability come with it. So don't simply jual signature, and it's not worth it once it's come back to you. Apply the certification that you have to do for under the HDA and Strata Title Acts. Those are statutory certification that you have no option, but you have to do it. You have to sign, or you have to certify for the issuance of progress certificate and so on, isn't it? So all those responsibilities, you know. But also be aware of what you have to do and what you don't have to do. The problem nowadays is more, clients keep asking you to do everything. Everything on earth. Sikit-sikit arkitek sign lah. Every page kita suruh kita sign. Dekat SMP tu, kan? How many of you have run an office and a client asked you to sign the drawing in the SMP? And how many of you have signed it? There are, isn't it? Kan? Do you have to? I come across when one of the clients asked me to do it. And I don't want to talk much, I don't want to argue much, I just show the LAM circular that say you can claim 500 for each certification. And they just, okay, no need to sign. Actually, that particular circular does not apply for that situation. I just trying to put them off. But no, nowadays, they ask you to do everything, and I do not know. And proposed strata plan when you co-sign with the surveyor, isn't it? The surveyor sign and you co-sign for it. I don't know. I just don't see the reason or the rationale behind it. You prepare for it, you sign for it lah. Why I have to co-sign and check for you? Nobody check and co-sign our drawings. Okay, and contract administrator, nowadays the client, the contractors are very knowledgeable as far as contract is concerned. Don't take it granted. Know your games again, as Tuan Syed said. And there are architects being sued by the client for giving EOT more than what the client believed the contractor entitled for. You see, you thought whatever, client should not interfere with my decision as far as EOT is concerned. That's good, that's right, that's fine enough. But you make sure you got it right, because once if the client feel that you are giving more that they are entitled, they said, this is our lost opportunity to us. We should be able to charge them early, but now we cannot because you give them more EOT what they entitled for. Yes, there are cases. Architect being sued for it. And nowadays, do you aware in the 2018 form of plan form of contract, 2006 form of contract, when you issue an EOT for how many days, you don't have to explain why. Now you have to. In 2018, you have to. If you reject, you have to tell them why you reject. Even if you give the EOT for that numbers of days, you still have to explain why you give that numbers of days. So they have all the papers if they want to come back to you. So be careful. The world have changed. It's not that so easy anymore. Next. Office administration, financial planning and control, and we touched a bit. Not only you prepare your plan ahead, but running the monies along the way is also something very important for you to look at. Keep your accounting, keep track of every money in and out, and there are many softwares that can help you. There are many softwares, even the online software, that you can simply key in your expenses at the end of the month, they generate the accounting for you. Okay? That can simplify for a small office. And plan and spare your money for every payment that you receive. Remember, inside there are monies for income tax as well. Don't forget, at the end of the day, you spend everything at the end of the month, only then you start looking how to pay the income tax, how to pay the EPF. You have to pay income tax every month. You have to pay your EPF every month. You have to pay SST every 2 months. And it's not cheap if you delay in your payment. SST penalty, if you fail to pay, is 10% for that month. And if you still not paid it for the second month, it's up to 15%. That's the penalty. Okay? It's not cheap. And so plan your tax as well. And be disciplined in managing your income, expense that you have. But there are things that you have to spend, And don't be penny wise, pound foolish. Trying to save a little, but at the end of the day, you lose a lot more. All those licensing for the softwares and anything. Sometimes you pay a few ringgits, 10, 20 ringgits, online softwares that can save you a lot of the works. The younger generations, I think many of you have started using ChatGPT or whatever AI to do your minutes of meeting, answering questions. A friend showed me he get not the BQ, he asked the ChatGPT to reply the EOT application. Obviously, it won't come out perfect, but still, I think it's a good start for you to, and then you can check on it, okay? So there are monies that it's worth spending for. And one of the things, especially for the new incoming props, do not mix up between your personal expenses and the office expenses. As we said just now, as far as the prop is concerned, it's more or less The company is you, you are the company. But do not mix up between the two of your expenses. It doesn't mean that as and when you want to have the money, you just take it from the office. If you decide you will have 8,000 salary for a month for yourself, that's all. As far as your money is concerned, that's all for you. At the end of the year, you want to take some profit, that's a different story. But be disciplined in managing your money. Okay? 4 minutes. And one thing, collection. And you have to plan your collection. Because you have target in your cash flow, at the end of this month, you must have this much. And you have secured the project, you are happy you have the project, you've done your work, but at the end of the day, it's all about claiming what you are entitled for. So you have to plan ahead. Maybe based on your cash flow, I have at the end of this December, I must have 50,000. So 2 months ahead, you have planned to get the 50,000. Look at whatever you have on board now in your office. What can I claim for 50,000 by the end of this month? You need that for next month. You have to start claiming for this month. You have to give some time for the client to process. Otherwise, you have. I don't think you want to keep nagging them every day, isn't it? Yeah. So what you can claim for at the end of this month for 50,000 because you need that 50,000 at the end of the next month. So you have to plan for it. You know that, we have to do BP submission. Only then we can claim. So you start arranging, you start organizing, get the BP drawings done and submit. And one thing in our service compared to contractors, contractors will claim by end of every month for whatever completed, for whatever works they have completed. They complete 15%, they claim for 15%, they complete 17% and so on. Okay. But in our service, we have the milestone. You can only claim when you complete that particular milestone. As many of you have certified the housing progress claim, the stage payment in housing, 10% for the foundation, another 10% for the structure, isn't it? Only if the foundation completed, then you can claim for then the developer can claim for the foundation. Only if the structure works completed, only then they can claim for the structure works. So as you. It means that only when you reach your milestone, you can claim for it. Means that you may have a breakdown that, up to the BP, you can claim, say, 5%. So only if you submit the BP. If you're for a week, your staff keep saying, sikit lagi, dah nak submit means nothing. Submit, then you can claim. Isn't it? Almost complete means almost mean nothing. You cannot claim based on almost. Only done you can complete, you can claim for it. So be careful, you must have a target. Now, this is really business minded, but this you decide for it. You want to go for business, that's it. Okay? And Dr. Miguel will touch more about how to get jobs, present yourself. But if I may, that's as far as the job is concerned, you have to secure by a proper agreement. Okay? Get some. I know in real life we did not have the privilege of getting your appointment in the first day of your job. Until I get my appointment, I won't do anything. Okay lah, balik awal lah. And yes, but along the line, as much as or as soon as possible, get your appointment secured. And you know that the stamping will cost you, but stamping is not really compulsory, actually. And one of the main important part of your appointment, done. Okay. Huh? Oh. Okay then. And 3 minutes. I finish whenever the time finish. That's it. Okay. Don't worry. And because this particular topic, if you want to go on and on, it's never finished. Okay, I just finished when the time finished. Don't worry. And one of the main important thing in your agreement is the payment schedule, of course. The SOMF gives you some guideline, schematic 15%, and design development 30%, and so on. But nothing to stop you to break it down. And in fact, I believe JKR have a very detailed payment. Up to, you do something, you get 2%, you do something, you got 1.5%, 2.5%. Means that at every single small step, you can claim. That helps your cash flow. You want to wait until you complete the whole your whole schematic, the client confirm everything, satisfy everything, only then you can claim that 15%? That will take at least you 6 months. How you want to survive for that 6 months? So break it down. It's okay. Nothing stop you to do that. Or if you can talk some client willing to do monthly retainer, that helps also. And so, yes, I believe many of the clients did not intentionally sort of trying to bully you or take advantage of you. Many of them are genuinely not aware of what your right is, what the statutory says as far as this matter is concerned. And that's why, because we don't, how many of you actually come approach your client, especially at the very early days, and try to educate them about your own appointment, about your rights and responsibilities? Not many, isn't it? I believe not many of you. So, and then we keep blaming them. That's why when we don't advise, there are other people who coming and advising them. And nowadays there are consultant appointments that come with EOT and LD. How bizarre is it? Isn't it? But some of them, because that's what they know, that's what the way they deal with all the contractors all the time. They thought everybody is something like that. So we have to educate them as well. And as much as when you running a project as a project architect in your previous office, you keep track of the project to make sure it's delivered on time. This one is more important for you to keep track of the project, not about only to deliver the project to your client, but for your own sustainability. You have to make sure it reach at the milestone that you expected at the end of what month, so you can claim for it. Money talk again. Okay? And I think that's more. Okay. Anyway, and managing office, managing finance is one thing. There's another bigger asset in your office. Actually, your staff. The people in your office, they are your biggest asset. No matter how much you appreciate your clients, how much you appreciate whoever that give you the projects, but appreciate your staff that actually has been supporting of you all this time. They are the unsung heroes maybe. They are the one who stay at the back late night for doing all the dirty jobs for you. So you are their leader. They look up for you. Be their leader, not just their employer. And train them and develop them. And there was a story that a CFO of a company asked the owner, this particular owner of the company is keep sending his staff for training, seminars, workshops. And the CFO, I'm just taking the CFO because those money-minded people are always calculative, and asked, what if after we send our staff for all those 1,000 ringgit training and seminars, what if after we send them for the training, they resign? And the owner said, what if we did not train them, we did not develop them, and they stay? That's like bahasa Melayunya menanggung biawak hidup. How do you say that? Like carrying a dead load, dead weight. And those who you have to feed them every month, yet they didn't really contribute to the company. So development of your staff is also important, as much on the technical skill as far as also on the soft skill, on their maturity. And marketing and visibility is the mega topic. But if I may just one thing to say on the one, most of our jobs in architecture, we got it from mouth to mouth, friends that we know. In so many years, I'm running the Part 3 exam, for the classes for the Part 3 exam. It's naturally, many of them, after they pass the Part 3, next what? Trying to open up their own office. Okay? Trying to open up their own office, start looking for jobs. Means start looking for the clients. And at that very point of time, they start looking to the left and start looking to the right, and they found that everybody that they know are architects. Either they are studio mates, either they are office mates, either they are ex-office mates. Those are not going to be your client. Those are your competitors. Okay? Means that I understand after so many years that we have spent in this architectural life, during the masa student tak keluar studio pun, tidur makan minum dalam studio kan. All your life is about architecture. Makan architecture, minum architecture, tidur architecture, bangun architecture, main architecture. Kan? Kawan pun architecture. Laki ada laki pun arkitek juga, bini pun arkitek juga. Kan? So, masa tu baru, when you were trying to go out and looking for a job, then you only then you're aware you know nobody else. So, broaden your life. For me, it's just a matter of enjoying your life. Go out. The world is much more bigger than just architecture. Reflect yourself, what is other than architecture? Non-architecture, nothing to do with architecture that you did in your life. I believe if some of you reflect, you found that nothing, almost nothing. But it's enjoying your life. Do whatever you want to do. I have a couple of, just people, friends of different circles. I have my biker circles, I have my photography circles, I have my model maker circles, I have drone player circles, I have my NGO circles. And it's not really that because you make friends, you are targeting to get some jobs. But mainly it's enjoying your life. Along the way you meet people. And orang kata rezeki will come. So with that, I think there are many other challenges that you have to look forward as well. Nowadays, the doing business is not like the old days. And the financial burden, of course, the fee are being squeezed on you, yet the costs are keep rising. And the liabilities also nowadays, one I think I skipped just now, the client pushing on us, the PCWD, the Principal Construction Work Designer. Be aware of your right. PAM have issued a circular on that one. And don't simply take whatever the client force on you. So all the risk is coming. The risk is rising. People are more aware. The clients, not the buyers keep checking inside, come, suddenly nobody knows. The buyers already come and inspect inside the house. And future challenges, there is a lot more. The technologies that coming in, take it as something that you can utilize, not as a threat for you. There are many ways that the AI coming in, the BIM coming in, that can make your life easier and actually, in a way, can also reduce your cost. One thing good is actually you can diverse your revenue. Do not look in architecture as the traditional, conventional way that when you got a job, you have to do it, the whole basic services, from 1 to 5. No, I talked to some of you, the younger generation, who are actually purposely or intentionally said, no, I'm only good at design. I want to do design. After design, I give to another friend to manage it. No, I only good at project management. I will take whoever want to me to manage project for them. I have a good rapport with the authority. I can manage with the authority. You can actually diverse. Inside the SMOF, we have those additional services and supplementary services. Look for it. You can actually offer your service. And last 1 or 2 weeks ago, there are quite a few times come across my FB advertisement by an engineer giving a lecture on CPC and CCC. By an engineer. Obviously, they charge for it. CPC, who in charge of it? You are the SO. CCC, you are the PSP. Not to blame, not to say that who are you to talk about CPC and CCC, but since architect doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to share about it, other people taking it. Yet it's your field. It's your expertise by rights, isn't it? But other people talking about it. And be aware that there are many other professionals or para-professionals. Para-professionals are those who have the same set of skill, but they're not sort of technically entitled. We are talking about more or less the Part 2 graduate architects. And many of them, I believe you are aware, offering jobs, offering services out there. And many of them, even the other professionals can offer better service than us because we did not back up ourselves. Who's supposed to know more about the contract? Who's supposed to administer the contract? Isn't it us? Yes, but every time in the contract, in the mid-site meeting, whenever the contract issues rise up, we look at to the QS. Mr. QS, what do you think? The runner at DBKL know more about the DBKL requirement than us. The site staff know about technicality, the construction detail more than us. Site staff on site, isn't it? So if everybody else know better than us on our trade, what left us on us? Oh, we are good in design. Nobody else can do design, isn't it? That's our core. If I ask, how many of you dare to raise your hand to say you are a good designer? Many not dare to say that, isn't it? So what left of us? So by that, I think I just conclude. And sorry, I just touching a little bit on more or less of it. Oh yes, just in my last slide, another could be coming to us. This is about a week ago, news 5th of November. In UK, they start, actually, it was before, but they start looking back again. To deregulate architects means everybody can do the architect function. Then, if that happened here, and it's not impossible, because the world is changing. The world is no boundaries nowadays. And people are asking and pushing for it. What will happen? You know, the only string that we hold in our society today is because only architects can submit for the bidding plan. That's the only thing. One day, if we don't have that anymore, what left of us? So you have to be able to think in future. We're talking about, okay, maybe my time, one side time, the next few years, we are fine, we are enough. But most of you have another 10, 15, 20 years of you that you may have to face all of this. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Sorry for your time. Sorry for whatever the lag, and thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you so much, Architect Sairadi, for those insightful points. So before we take a short coffee break, everybody, I would like to invite Architect Ren once again to the stage, which is our POP chairman and council member, to deliver the certificate of appreciation to our speakers before you guys go somewhere. Okay. You're the last one, you better stay, yeah. Okay. So the first one, well, Anis, okay. So the first one, I would like to invite Architect Syed Sobri, Syed Ismail to the stage. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you to our, yep. Wonder, all right. Smile for the camera. Yes. All right. Okay. Smile. Yep. All right. Thank you, Architect Syed Sobri. Yep. And then next, I would like to invite Architect Syed Muhammad Radi Syed Sakaf for our first session, the practice management and compliance, to the stage. Yeah. Yep. All right. Thank you, Tuan Syed. And then I would like to invite our second session guest speaker, for the invoicing and SST, Ms. Janani Segaraja and Ms. Chan Chenny to the stage. Yep. Baju together. Yeah, left and right. Left and right, ladies. Ren, you in the middle. Yep. I would text ladies, everybody. Yep. Smile. All right, thank you. All right. And last one for our third session, branding, marketing, and practice visibility. Oh, architect, Dr. Miguel, come on stage. Yeah. Thank you. All right, thank you. Oh, yeah, all right. And then before we go to the stage, everybody, we would like to take a group photo. So, photographer on this. Huh? Oh, everybody, come. Bila kat stage ni? Oh, okay. Speaker first, and then group photo. All right.
Thumbs up, everyone. Thank you.
So we can have a short coffee break for 15 minutes. We'll be back in 11:15. So you can enjoy some coffee downstairs. All right. Let's have something to drink and snacks on.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we. We've been on more than summer, making that bread and butter. Tell me, did I just stutter? That's the motto. That's the motto.
Hello.
for you. And you can tell me if I'm off, but I see it on your face when you say that he's the one that you want. And you're spending all your time in this wrong situation.
Hello, hello.
Time you want it to stop. I know I can treat you bad.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a refreshing break. Okay, our second session today focuses on something crucial for every business, which is compliance and financial management. So we are pleased to have two inspiring speakers. First, Ms. Janani Segaraja, a tax consultant specializing in e-invoicing. And then the second one is Ms. Gan Chenny, a consultant on SST. Okay, briefly about Ms. Janani Segaraja. Janani has over 9 years of experience in providing tax compliance and advisory services to a wide range of Malaysian and multinational clients, carrying on business in manufacturing, trading, distribution, and service providers in various industries. She has also been involved in many e-invoicing advisory jobs supporting her clients. Okay, next one, briefly about Ms. Gan Chenny. Chenny has over 8 years of experience specializing in the Malaysian indirect taxes, namely service tax and sales tax, SST. She provides SST compliance and advisory services to clients across a spectrum of industries including oil and gas, manufacturing, service providers, etc. Together, they will help us understand how to navigate new invoicing systems and tax regulations effectively. So please welcome Ms. Janani Segaraja with a big round of applause.
Okay. Hi everybody. Okay, so sorry. Okay, yeah, so basically we'll be covering e-invoicing matters as well as so e-invoicing and also service tax, right? So I think that's what a lot of you, I saw some of the questions that people had when they registered, so I saw some questions on that. Okay, so basically just wanted to get a show of hands. How many of yourselves, either your businesses or companies already have started the e-invoicing journey? Okay, so one person, okay. Okay, so great, then you're in the right place. Okay. So, so for e-invoicing, I think just wanted to, so some of you may have heard, right? So the Inland Revenue, they actually roll out this e-invoicing since 1st August 2024, right? So it's already more than a year now. And I'm sure you would have seen when you go to the shops, you would have seen like sometimes there'll be like a sign there, if you need an e-invoice, scan this code and things like that, right? Or sometimes, you know, when even your customers or your clients, they may have asked you like, oh, will you be giving me an e-invoice, right? So you may have come across these kind of questions. So I think just wanted to set the scene. Okay, so what actually is e-invoice, right? So e-invoice is not just like a PDF document that you email your invoice to your customer and then you say like, oh, okay, I send it via email, so e-invoice. That's not what it is, right? So e-invoice is actually a form of electronic billing where actually it's more on the data that is being sent to the Inland Revenue, right? So it's like data in the form of JSON or XML, right? So it's you know, if you downloaded this data, it looks like computer coding, which well, I can't really read, right? But that's what is actually being transmitted over to the Inland Revenue. Okay. And ultimately, once the whole ecosystem, Malaysian business ecosystem, who needs to go on to e-invoicing, once the 1st July 2026 happens, right? Basically, what will likely happen is this will be your proof of income and proof of expense. So eventually, for say your tax computation, so on and so forth, the Inland Revenue will already have most of the information to already know what kind of tax you need to be paying, right? So it may be such a way where you submit your tax of say 100,000, and then Inland Revenue says actually based on the e-invoices that data, actually your tax should be 120,000. So pay me the 20,000 lah. I mean, this is future lah, right? We haven't got there yet, but this is what it could be in the future, right? So I think in terms of the phases of e-invoicing, so as I mentioned, 1st August 2024 is when it started, right? It was the companies more than 100 million. Then it went to the next phase, 25 to 100 million, which was 1st Jan 2025. Now we are in the 5 mil to 25 million phase. And 1st Jan 2026 will be the 1 mil to 5 mil, right? And then 1st July 2026, where many of you may be falling in that bracket, would be those who receive income up to 1 million, right? But to clarify here, actually, if your income is less than 500,000, you're actually exempted from e-invoicing. So basically, that final threshold is really 500,000 to 1 million lah. So if you fall within that threshold, then e-invoicing is something that you need to consider. Okay. And also something to note is that, so the Inland Revenue obviously does understand that, you know, they set a date, doesn't mean everybody is going to be all ready by that date. So what happens is, when your date to comply with e-invoicing starts, so say for example, 1st of July 2026, the Inland Revenue gives a 6 months concession period. So within that 6 months, you can basically transmit your data, but if there's any mistakes, errors, and so on, there's really not going to be penalties imposed lah. That's what the assurance the government has given, because it's more of they want you to upskill or to do it. So if you don't do anything and just wait for those 6 months, then you are subject to, say, penalties. But if you've done your best, you've tried to do it, and there are mistakes and errors, that's when they say that, okay, then they won't penalize you. Okay? So, okay, what kind of transactions are covered under e-invoicing? So typically, it's your B2B or B2C type transactions, right? So for yourselves, you could have, when you say B2B, we mean like business to business, so you're transacting with another business. When we say B2C, typically it would be customer, which is an individual. So you and I, in our individual capacity, say we are building a house, right? We would be a B2C. The C would be me if I'm building a house. I'm not building for my company, I'm building for myself. But B2B could be, you know, if you're doing it for a property developer and such, that would be a B2B transaction, right? So, but anyway, all this also need e-invoicing, right? It's just a question of how the e-invoicing is, because there's actually 2 types. So your B2B would need to be an individual invoice, meaning each transaction, each invoice you give them, it needs to be a B2B invoice. But a B2C, see, when I build my house, I don't really need an e-invoice from you, right? Because I'm not going to claim like income tax deduction and so on. So I would say like, okay, I don't need an e-invoice. I don't want to give you all my particulars, my tax registration number and so on. You don't need that. So then you as the business or service provider, you are allowed to do what they call a consolidated e-invoice. So for the month, you would consolidate all the invoices you have given to these B2C transactions, and you would, at the end of the month, 7 days after the end of the month, you need to transmit this data. So there's 2 types. There's the B2B, which is like a real-time, as and when you issue your invoices, you should be transmitting the data to the Inland Revenue. And then there's the B2C, which gives you this 1 month, end of the month, you transmit those data, right? But of course, decision also is at the business owner. They can say, okay, I'm not going to do this consolidated. I will upfront tell my individual customers that, no, I'm just going to, all my invoices, I'm going to transmit, right? That's an option that you can do as well. Okay. So I think just wanted to show you diagrammatically how e-invoicing really works, right? So as I mentioned, it's really data transmission. So typically we would expect, okay, the bigger companies, they have their accounting systems, SAP, those kind of things. So they would transmit the data, say they would create an invoice in their system, and then in their system, it would create an invoice transmission to the Inland Revenue, right? But even in yourself, sometimes you may have accounting systems, right? And your accounting systems, I've seen certain accounting system softwares that actually do have this e-invoicing as well. So if you do have this e-invoicing software that you are currently part of your accounting system, then it would similarly work, where the gray box would be the middle software, and the data is then transmitted to the Inland Revenue. So when the Inland Revenue gets the data, they do like a sort of a validation to see whether the data fields are complete. And if they are, then they will transmit back 3 data back to the accounting system. Basically, it's a unique identifier number, the date and time of the validation, and as well as a unique ID which can be converted into a QR code, right? And this QR code actually will then need to be given to your customer, and that's how you know it's a validated e-invoice. Okay? So yeah, so this is the flow. So just now recall I mentioned QR code, right? So this is just a sample. So there's no, for the inland revenue, you can do your invoice however you want, right? There's no, like, oh, the invoice format needs to be a certain way and such like that. You can do however you want. What is additional is this QR code, right? So if you were to, because, you know, yourselves may not really have that many invoices in a month, right? So you may not want to invest in a system to get the QR code from the inland revenue to be like tampal onto your invoice, right? So actually on the inland revenues platform itself, they will have their own like no logo. As you can see the sample, right? There's no logo or anything. It will just have the name and stuff, but they'll have a QR code there. You can print that out from the inland revenue system and you can give it to your customer. So say if you want your invoice, your commercial invoice with your logo and everything, you can give that together with this as two separate documents, but the info will be the same lah, right? So that there's not a lot of investment on your end, okay? But ultimately what happens is that if your customer wants to see whether this is a validated invoice, they can scan the QR code, and when they scan the QR code, the thing on the right would appear. So that would be like, they can see the supplier name, the buyer name, the transaction, and the date and time of submission to the inland revenue, okay? Okay, so this is where, okay, this seems like a lot of information. I think the PAM team has actually printed some handout, which they may give you later, I'm not sure. Yeah, so you don't have to take a picture of this because I've already prepared the handout for you. So basically, this is what is the information, okay? So like I said, e-invoicing is all about data transmission, what data the inland revenue wants. So you can see all those in white, that is like the mandatory data that they want. It may look like a lot, but it's really not, because if you look at all the supplier data, which is like the items 1, 3 to 9, and so on, that's actually your own data. You are the supplier, right? You already have this data, nothing too complicated to obtain. Where you may have a bit of difficulty would be maybe item 10, because item 10 is your buyer's TIN number, which is their tax registration number. And typically, when you go into agreement with them, normally your buyer's name, you definitely have it. It's whatever company or business that they are in, and their registration number, IC number. Typically, I'm sure when you have a contract, you already get this kind of information from them, right? So it's only the TIN. So as I think, because this has been introduced about a year ago, right? So there are improvements that the inland revenue has made. So at the start, they found that a lot of companies were complaining to say that it's so difficult for me to get my TIN number from my customer. So what the inland revenue actually has done is they actually have in their My Tax portal. So if you log into your My Tax, which is where you go in to pay your income tax and so on, right? You actually can see there's this function called the TIN search. And there, as long as you put in the business registration number or the IC number of your customer, you can actually find their TIN number already. So if your customer doesn't want to give it to you, you can just go there and take it. Okay. So basically, 1 to say 17, it's pretty much just supplier info and buyer info. Like nothing too complicated, nothing that it's very difficult to obtain, right? So then comes the 18 to 25. So e-invoice version, it will be default. It will be whatever the latest version is. E-invoice type, so this is where it will be either an invoice or a debit note or credit note. So depending on your situation, right? But just wanted to highlight that for e-invoicing purposes, you always need to have an original e-invoice before you can issue a e-invoice credit note or e-invoice debit note. You can't straight away issue an e-invoice credit note without having an original invoice. So if you look at number 21, if you look at the data field number 21, it is only applicable if there's a credit note or debit note. So say if there's a credit note, they will ask you what was the original e-invoice that you're trying to credit from. Okay, so that's just something to take note. 28 to 38, those are your tax numbers, which I think it's already your numbers, right? So say if you're 100,000 of your fees, then you say if it's subject to service tax, you will have the service tax portion. If it's not subject to service tax, what is it? I mean, then the tax rate will be 0 and so on and so forth, right? All those pink color actually can ignore. It's not mandatory. It's there for completeness, but it's not mandatory to be transmitted over, so you don't need to worry about it too much. This, honestly, for your completeness I've provided, but it's really not going to be applicable for yourselves because this is typically for those where a company, so the one on the left is those where you ship your goods or you bill to one party and you provide services to another party or provide goods to another party. So they gave an option to have 2 addresses and 2 data points, so it wouldn't be applicable for yourselves. And on the right is one thing I haven't gone to yet is, so for e-invoicing, you always think about e-invoicing only issuing invoices for my income, right? But the IRB has gone a step further because there are obviously transactions that we transact with that are out of the ecosystem of e-invoicing. One of the major examples is when you buy from overseas, right? So when you buy from overseas, obviously the overseas provider isn't on the Malaysian e-invoicing ecosystem. So how is the Inland Revenue going to know? Because remember I said proof of income, proof of expense, right? So all the expenses you make locally, by right, your supplier should be giving you an e-invoice. But what about all the purchases you're making from overseas? How is the Inland Revenue going to know what kind of expenses you're incurring? So where this comes in is that they call what they call a self-bill e-invoice, where although you are the buyer, right, you are going to assume the role of the purchaser, assume the role of the supplier and do a self-bill e-invoice to record this data and transmit to the IRB. Okay. I don't know how many of you actually do have foreign purchasers and foreign service providers. But if you do, then you can just take note that for this self-bill e-invoicing, the only mandatory field, the one item 5 there, is if you're importing goods. So if for whatever reason you are importing goods from overseas, typically there'll be customs clearance, right? You will get some customs clearance, and that reference number needs to be provided to the Inland Revenue. So I don't know if that anybody has that situation, but it's just something to take note. Okay. Okay. So as I mentioned, self-bill e-invoice, right? So the main transaction that typically most businesses have is the item number 2, which is the foreign supply of goods and services, right? But there's also when you make payments to agents, dealers, and distributors, right? Who are not carrying on business, you also are required to like, so say if for whatever reason you paid a property agent, for example, you need to do a self-bill e-invoice. Okay, transactions with individuals, you see item number 4. So this one is only for individuals who are not conducting a business. So I give you a very common example. A common example is maybe you're renting out your office space, right? And your landlord is actually an individual. This individual is just somebody who happens to own this property, right? As a investment passive income for them, right? They're not carrying out the business of renting out property. So they are not going to register for e-invoicing and issue you an e-invoice. Okay? But you as a business, because you want to record this as your proof of expense, you are going to want the e-invoice to keep it. So this is where you need to issue a self-bill e-invoice. Okay? So it's only for transactions with individuals who are not carrying on a business. So the difference being, say, some of you are sole proprietors, right? You are carrying on business. You are individual carrying on business. So then you don't fall under this category. So if somebody were to transact with you, you would tell them, no, I will issue you an e-invoice. You don't self-bill me for my services. Something, that's an example. Okay. The items 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are not so common. Just to clarify for item 5, the normal dividends that you issue, say if you own a company, Senior Berhad, and you issue dividends out, that doesn't fall under self-bill e-invoicing. Okay? So the next item is on staff benefit. So, you know, some of you may have staff benefit or sometimes staff claims, right? Your staff can claim their mileage, their petrol, so on and so forth, their food, maybe if they have to travel outstation to go for site visit and everything. So the government has noted that, you know, for these kind of benefits, it is quite difficult to actually get an e-invoice to support. So, you know, like your Google Maps, right, that you use for mileage, or your touch and go, or your petrol. Right now, there's no e-invoice that comes up from the petrol kiosk or touch and go, right? So these kind of these kind of supporting documents at this juncture is sufficient. So you don't need to tell your staff like, hey, I cannot approve your claim if you don't give me e-invoice. That's not how it is. So these type of perquisite kind of benefits, you are allowed to maintain status quo, but where possible, obviously, if they can get e-invoice, that's the best. But like I mentioned, the toll, the petrol, those are not possible. But as long as your current employment, either your employment contract with them or your employer handbook, like if you have any HR policy with them, allows them to claim these types of expenses, then it's fine. Okay, so that's one of the, it's just a relaxation the Inland Revenue has given. They say that as long as it's in your employee handbook, it's already allowed for them to claim, then whatever existing supporting document they have is sufficient. Okay, so one important thing is timing, right? So when do I issue these e-invoices? So as I mentioned, for your normal B2B type transaction, while there's no specific timing, like IRB doesn't say, oh, within 2 days you need to issue or within 3 days, what they keep saying is within real time, right? So we obviously recommend within the day or next day, you try to do this transmission, right, to the Inland Revenue. Consolidated e-invoice is the one I mentioned that is your B2C customers. Then it's within 7 days after the end of the month, right? Foreign income, importation of goods and importation of services, just for your information. So for importation of goods, you need to do the self-bill following the end of the second month from customs clearance. So if now it's November, the end of the second month is actually end of January. Okay? Whereas importation of services is the end of the next month. So if you do importation of services now, it's the end of the next month, it's end of December. So it's a bit different now, the goods and the services. So just something to take note if you have such transaction. Okay, so government doesn't always introduce anything without, there has to be some carrot and stick right at the end of it. So they have introduced these penalties, but to be very honest, for now, they are more on the education part of it. So far, there hasn't been any e-invoicing audit or penalties. They're more trying to just get the taxpayers to be familiar. But like I said, I think they give all this relaxation and all this is to encourage everybody to try. But if you were to fall under the umbrella of having to do e-invoicing, but you don't do anything, then of course you run the risk of being subject to penalties. So some of the penalties are 200 to 20,000 or imprisonment, which is the typical tax, Income Tax Act penalties that are introduced. Okay. So from e-invoicing, really that's kind of the gist of it. We have provided, so I think I wanted to highlight is that the IRB actually has this, what they call the My Invoice portal. Okay, so that is free of charge for anybody, especially smaller businesses, to validate, transmit the data, and issue the validated e-invoice to their customers. So I think I shared with Pam the manual, right? So I think there's a QR code that they will share because it's a 300 over page document. So 400 page document. So we weren't going to print it out. But to give credit to the government, they've actually put a very step-by-step of how to register, how to get put in the details, how to create the document, how to check your past documents. There's the agenda, the table of contents page itself, I think it's 3 pages because there's so many types of things you can do. So to credit to them, they've actually done it quite step by step for businesses who are starting out and don't want to be paying a lot of money to use a software, right? You can already do it on the Inland Revenue's portal. So just something to take note. Okay, so that's on e-invoicing. So I thought I'll also just quickly run through certain e-invoicing is one, right? But you also do have to file your income tax, right? Corporate income tax, or if you're sole proprietor, then it's your personal income tax. So I think just wanted to highlight some of the key areas that you need to take note of. So one is things like your deductions, right? So making sure that your deductions typically, they need to be wholly and exclusively incurred in your production of gross income. So suddenly if you say you travel, then it's muscle in your company's income statement, maybe your auditor is fine with it, right? Because it's just, okay, business expense. But from a tax perspective, on the basis that it's not incurred to produce income, right, it's your personal private expenditure, actually these expenses are not allowed. So you need to take note of this because you don't want to like claim and then later if inland revenue come and ask, then you need to prove, right? So just something to take note. Payments like interest and stuff like that, if you have any like related companies, say sometimes you may have more than one company for different kind of businesses. One company is cash rich, one company is not doing so well, so maybe you provide a loan, and then there'll be like some interest charges. You need to take note of that, whether they are like arm's length transactions, right? So not sure if any of you have that, but that's something to take note. And also things like withholding tax. So sometimes you pay overseas providers, could be like say software subscription and so on. Actually, there are withholding tax provisions that you need to comply with. Typically for software, if you buy overseas software, you need to withhold for royalty. And if you don't pay the withholding tax, actually you can't claim tax deduction or capital allowance on those assets. So it's something to just take note as well. I think just wanted to give an awareness of some of the things that Inland Revenue is looking at. And the other is also an employer tax audit. So nowadays, we see more employer tax audits coming up. Last time it was quite rare, but I think they are starting to notice that, especially companies that have a lot of employees, if they've missed out one, because each employees, you miss out something, you 200 ringgit fine, you have 100 employees, you already times that by 100, it's quite easy for them to get fine collection from the companies, right? So it's small errors or mistakes that sometimes companies do overlook. Could be things like just late in submitting the MTD documentation or not including the taxable benefits that they may get from their perquisites that you give them as an employee benefit, or just not keeping proper record keeping. So I think one thing I just wanted to highlight is record keeping is very important. I think earlier it was mentioned as well, right? You don't like spend and then like later only you want to think like, oh, do I have the documents that I want to keep for my tax audit or for my, just for claiming tax, right? And for everyone's knowledge, actually for Malaysian tax, you need to keep your documents for 7 years. So you need to take note. But of course, we know like invoices and everything, it fades, right? Sometimes it's like 1-2 months already, like faded already. So best practice is always to scan it immediately or within the week or so, and then keep it as a soft copy, right? So you also don't need to waste storage space. And also then, back it up and things like that. So it's there, right? You don't have to like suddenly 2 years later find that don't know whether got hole already in the invoice and so on. So just something best practice to take note, because telling the IRB that you lost the document or what is not going to be beneficial for you lah. Okay. So this is just some examples of like expenses, allowable, non-allowable. So typically like your staff, so say if you go, like say after a big project, you want to treat your staff and then you go out for dinner, things like that. Those are staff welfare. Those kind of things are claimable. I mean, obviously within reasonable amounts. You go for like some team building trip, things like that within Malaysia especially, also typically is claimable. Your rental, those kind of things, advertising, those are all claimable expenditure. So where things are not typically claimable is like say withholding tax. If the supplier says that no, you have to pay me full amount, any withholding tax you pay is your expenses, then that additional withholding tax you pay is not deductible. Things like leave passage, which I mentioned, is the private expenditure, private traveling, those also not typically allowed. Penalties that you may incur. So this is a bit different. So penalties, if you typically incur penalties for like from the Inland Revenue or from like government, then typically we will say these are non-taxable. Non-deductible. But if you were to incur penalties as a form of your contract, so say sometimes maybe you paid your supplier a bit late and then they charge you some late penalty. Typically those we would say is like just as a part of doing business. And so those we would typically just claim a deduction. So it also does depend lah. And professional fees that you may incur. So you may know that if you were to have an auditor or a tax agent, things like that, those costs are typically non-deductible, but then under certain provisions, there's a special deduction that's allowed. So I think it's just awareness of these kind of things lah. Yeah. So I think that's all I have. So I'm going to pass over to Jenny for her service tax portion.
Thanks, Junani. Hi, everyone. My name is Chani. The PAM team gave me a very challenging task. They want me to finish talking in 10 minutes. So I will try my best, just key points. Before I start, can I have a show of hand? How many are registered for service tax? Ah, good business. Okay. So today I will give you an overview of what SST is and also the basic concept of service tax. So in the market, we keep saying SST, SST, but SST actually stands for two different sets of taxes. One is the sales tax and one is the service tax. Sales tax will not be applicable to you because it's only applicable for manufacturers that manufactures taxable goods. For you, what's relevant will be the service tax. Service tax is applicable on any taxable services provided in Malaysia. It's also applicable on imported services. That's when you acquire services from foreign service providers. The rate of service tax is, it could be a 6% or an 8%, it depends. Like F&B, when you dine in Notch and Bell, that's a 6%. Parking will be a 6%. But for architectural services, these professional services is at 8%. Okay. Now, not all services under the sun will be taxable. It's only those services that are prescribed in the law to be taxable will be taxable. And if you can see here, there are 13 groups, A to M, 13 groups. If the services fall within this group, then it will be taxable. For architectural services, it will fall under Group G, under professional services, item F, if you can see here, architect. So every group actually has their own registration threshold. For example, food and beverages, that's 1.5 million. For professional services, that's actually 500,000. And what's different about this registration threshold for Group G is they share a combined threshold. So if you provide architect services for only 100,000, but let's say you provide IT services for 400,000, so technically, you should be registered already. We don't look at legal 500, accounting 500, architect 500, but it's all within the same Group G, 500, then you should look for registration. This is a quick decision tree on how to see whether you have the liability to register or not. The first question that you should ask is, are you carrying on a business? If yes, are you providing taxable service? Architectural service is a taxable service. Then the next question is your annual sales turnover more than 500,000? Now, how we count that 500,000 is actually a rolling period. You stand from today, this month, November, and the next 11 months. Does it exceed 500,000? So if you want to say you want to forecast in the future, it's a bit impossible. But if you have reasonable grounds to believe that you will exceed 500,000 in the next 11 months, then in this month itself, you are liable to register. Customs will give you 1 month in December to get yourself registered, and then your effective date of registration will be the following month, which is January, 1st January. Now, for example, this is the future method. For example, if it's the historical method, which means that you stand at this month today, in November, and you check your past 11 months, have you exceeded the threshold? If not, then you stand the next month in December and the past 11 months. Then you check, have you exceeded the 500K threshold? If yes, then you are liable in December, get yourself registered in January, and then your effective date of registration will be 1st of February. It will always be 1st of the following month. But if you don't exceed the threshold, then you don't need to get yourself registered. But however, it doesn't mean that you don't need to do anything. There is still a imported taxable services provision to take note of. And this is something that our companies usually will also neglect it. So if you engage services from a local Malaysian service provider, and if they exceed the threshold, they are registered and they will charge you service tax. But if you engage from a foreign service provider, they probably will not be registered. So this provision, why customs put this in is to level the playing fields lah. Otherwise, everybody will just go and get services from the foreign people, and it would disadvantage our local service providers. So if you get services, there's no threshold, and it's a taxable service like IT, consultancy, so and so, all the services that it's in the 13 groups earlier, then you need to self-account that service tax. Self-account means you report it in your service tax return. And this reporting for imported taxable service is regardless whether you are registered or not. If you are carrying on a business, then you should be reporting this. If you are registered, then it's an SST2 return. If you're not registered, then it's an SSTO2A return. The taxable period is also different. Registered, then you have 2 months. Not registered, 1 month. It's a monthly reporting. If you're registered, you need to file, even if you have nothing to report. Nil return, you need to file. If you're not registered, only when you acquire imported services, then you file. That's the difference. Okay. There is also a timing to file. There's a timing to file these imported services. And the service tax is due at the earlier of when you make payment or when the invoice for the services is received. So you make payment first. Usually people will receive the invoice first, then only they make payment. So the date, usually people will just follow the date that they receive the invoice. If you receive in January, then you file in the January taxable period. Yeah, this is I summarized earlier. So if you receive invoice on 23rd May 2025, payment made 15 June 2025, then your O2A return is due 30th June. O2A for non-registered person is always 1-1. O2 return for registered person is always 2 months. It's a bi-monthly reporting. When you are registered, there is prescribed particulars to have on the invoice itself. And this is the list, it's in the law. So all these particulars must be on the invoice lah. And it's also in the handout given. Now, last page here, penalties. It's not meant to scare you, but it's to encourage compliance. So you have heard earlier that if you pay late, there will be a late payment penalty, and that is true. First 30 days, 10%. The next 30 days is 15%. Next 30 days, another 15%. So all in all, plus altogether, the late payment penalty is a total of 40%. It's quite a substantial amount. 40% is a lot on tax. Yeah. So these can happen when you file your return late. When you're registered and you file the O2 return late, then this late payment penalty starts kicking in. Yeah. Okay, summarize, that's all for me. 10 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you, Chenny. Thank you, Express. Okay, just because we just overrun our session, we are now at 12 at noon. So maybe we will do the Q&A session after Miguel's session. So if you guys have any questions, keep it first. So we'll go through it after. So, yeah. So thank you, Ms. Janani and Chenny. Stay put, don't go anywhere yet. Stay here. All right. Thank you for simplifying the complex world of taxation. Okay, guys. So next we'll move on to one of our most exciting session. Session 3, branding, marketing, and practice visibility. Our speaker, architect Dr. Miguel Robles, will share how architects can position themselves and their firm to stand out in today's competitive marketplace. So a brief biodata or intro on Architect Miguel. Other tools. I don't know. Maybe future. All right. Okay. Architect Dr. Miguel Robles is a registered architect with LAM, bringing over 15 years of professional and academic experience across Spain, Italy, Germany, and Malaysia. He holds a PhD in architectural design from the School of Architecture of Barcelona. He has led projects ranging from high-rise development such as the Oxley Towers at KLCC to adaptive use hospitality and education buildings. A passionate advocate for sustainable and contextuality responsive design, he is also an active speaker and researcher, sharing insights on architecture role in shaping urban and cultural environment. His experience in business development and practice growth gave him a unique perspective on branding, visibility, and strategic positioning within the architecture position. As they say, good design speaks for itself, but good branding makes sure people hears it. So please welcome architect Dr. Miguel Robles with a big round of applause. Right.
Oh. And the clicker. Okay, good afternoon. Everybody in the room is an architect, or is there anybody who is not? Can those who are not architects raise your hands? 2, 3. 3 persons. Okay. After a very rigid session on tax compliance, I hope that this is a bit of a easier to digest session. The downside of it is that whatever you were explained before is something that you can easily follow. It may be difficult to understand, but if you can follow, you get there. This one, you may follow everything and not get there. so it's a bit of a odd science. Let's talk about branding and marketing and practice visibility. I put the last two together. I find difficult to split them. What is branding? Branding is the architecture of perception through consistent expression of the values of our practice, the visual language of our practice, and experience. So why do we need branding? Because it is a crowded, and so is the profession. And because being different is better than being better. We don't want to be the black sheep, but sometimes we may be the black sheep. So well, let's be a cool black sheep. So what do our clients value when they choose us as a practice? Is it our reputation? Is it the word of mouth in the market, how we are perceived? Is it our location? Is it where our office is located, or whether we are in a convenient area of the city, or whether we have multiple offices across Malaysia or the world? Is it personalization? Is our ability to personalize not only the buildings that we design, but the services that we provide to adjust their needs? Is it the time? Is it how fast we can put our services together? Or is it the cost? Is it how appealing our fee is? Consistency, very important as well, especially for larger settings. Is our service always at the same level? Is compatible? When they engage us over time for different projects, do they always receive the same quality of service and design? If they engage us in different teams under us, work with them, do they get the same quality of service? Ambience, when they visit our office, do they perceive the same? Or the culture that we promote in our service, in our office environment, the way we treat them, treat our staff, and the things that we value? the quality of our services, the quality of our drawings, the quality of our, the way we carry our professional services, or the brand experience. Overall, how they feel when they deal with us, how we make them feel, how we place them in our order of priorities. So perhaps it's difficult to think about each of these items when we think about our architecture practice. Let's do a simile with something that we all Malaysian, I'm 25% Malaysian, we all Malaysian like, coffee. So what do you value when you choose a coffee brand? Is it all these things? Is it the reputation, the location, the consistency, personalization? Let's talk about brand positioning. It's not only how we, brand positioning is about how our brand lives in people's mind. So it's not how we define ourselves or how we want to be. How, you couldn't hear me all this while? Should I go back and start? All right. So how do we define our brand? First of all, we need to identify who is our audience. In this case, who we are designing for. Are we designing for developers? Are we designing for the community? Are we designing for future tenants? Or are we designing for ourselves, for our own pleasure? And what makes us unique? Is it the process of how we design? Is it the context-driven design? Is it the way we collaborate with the other stakeholders involved? How we curate our positioning statement. Does it feel, it's a sentence that captures, that encapsulates what we promise and what is our point of view of the world. And we test it. Does it really feel like that? Does it feel this way for ourselves, for our staff, for our clients, for the users of our buildings? So your brand positioning might be the goal of how you want to be seen by the consumer, by your client. Let's speak again using a simile with coffee. You maybe want to be seen as a brand, as a premium brand, for example, Bacha Cafe. You want to sell craftsmanship and history and the ritual, the process, and not just caffeine. Or Sus Coffee, good value. You want to be seen as modern, but not necessarily expensive. Starbucks, the market leader, is a global habit, globally accepted, consistency in the services. Or Challenger, Neko Matcha is small but bold. It's fresh ideas, a niche audience, and design savvy. Nescafe, you want to be seen as the daily brand that everybody trusts, that is in everybody's kitchen. Or Kopi at the Mamak, so it's safe, everybody likes it, nobody has any issue with that. So our brand positioning is also about finding the winning zone for us and how we place ourselves. If you only do what your competitors do, then you will disappear. If you do very well something that clients do not care, you will be irrelevant, you will waste your effort. So the goal is to place yourself in that area of doing the things that people appreciate, that your clients value, and that you do best. Let's look at some of the best known architectural practices in the world. When preparing this, I was hinted that it may be harder for some of you to correlate, because all these firms are large settings, but I think that is also relevant in the sense that we all know them and we all can relate to them in that sense. Let's look at these architectural practices and this quadrant and try to understand how they place themselves, how they position themselves. In the x-axis, we talk about substance, so the depth, the clarity, the coherence of the firm's design approach, the technical and philosophical consistency. And in the y-axis, we talk about strength. What is their public visibility, their storytelling power, their recognizability. So we have SOM, Foster and Partners, Snowheta, very strong, very deep thinking, and we have other practices that are very strong, but their depth is not as high, or other practices that are very deep in their thinking, but their visibility is not as high. Let's analyze these same firms now from these two other perspectives. They are regionally recognized or globally recognized on the y-axis, or they are more experimental, explorative, or better established. So you may try to think about why these practices are located where they are. So when defining your brand and your brand positioning, you must align 3 layers of identity. The first one is your ethos, why you design. And this ethos proposes your philosophy, your idea of the world. For example, I design to improve the urban living and the architectural approach from a design holistic manner. You think about the expression of your work, how you design. For example, to provide edgy and future-proof design solutions based on research and market study. This is how I position my brand. And experience as the third layer of identity, how you are perceived. I'm perceived as an architect who solves urban challenges through innovative, sustainable, and community-centric approach. So how do we formulate our brand positioning? Brand positioning and the brand positioning statement is a sentence that solidifies everything that you want people to think when they think of your brand. Like slogans, the one in capitals above, brand statement should be aspirational and should explain better what you do in a comprehensive manner. The slogan could be, we strive to deliver meaningful spaces. And the brand statement, the brand positioning statement, for us, every project is a canvas for our commitment to transformative design. Our approach centers around creating environments that go beyond the ordinary, infusing each space with a unique blend of aesthetic, functionality, and emotional resonance. There is a slogan, and there is a brand positioning statement. Eventually, if your brand doesn't make people feel something, they will forget you by lunch. An example of how our brand identity can also be expressed through the creation of our logotype. In this case, in our practice, we value the connection of the buildings and the spaces that we create and their relationship with the urban fabric, and so does this logo. It's a hypothetical logo of a non-existing practice called PIC, Purpose, Identity, Context. So in this case, this practice, hypothetical, uses city blocks to construct the logo. And these geometrical shapes of the city blocks resemble a city plan and symbolizes the collaboration between the different parties. It also serves as a placeholder and is adaptable for multiple purposes, reflecting the brand's mission to solve the city as a puzzle and to do so through innovative and community-led focus. when we think about branding, we think about every aspect of how our brand is perceived and the applications of each of the elements that form our brand identity. This goes as well to the colors that we choose. In this case, we choose these colors that are vibrant colors that embody the studio playfulness and explorative approach to architecture. And this translates as well to every other application. Our business cards, our website, the choice of the font, everything breathes the same spirit. Let's look at these pictures now. Buildings, I believe, that are easy to recognize by most of us, or almost all of us, in all of these buildings. So the values of our brand are not only visible in what we say that we are, or what we explain that we are or that we aspire to be, must also be visible and position us through the buildings that we deliver. I would like to ask you, and you can just speak up or raise your hand, what any of these pictures, let's go one by one, inspires to you. Let's look at this building first. This building first. Can you suggest any word that comes to your mind when looking at this picture? Not the brand, not the practice name. Strength, okay. Any other word? Sorry? Precision. Very shy audience. Okay, these are some of the words that come to my mind. Precision, timelessness, order. Let's try another one. Let's look at this one. Any word that comes to your mind? Don't be shy. Any word? Huh? Relax. Okay. Boldness, playfulness, provocation. Another example? This one? Any word that comes to your mind? Come on, by now you know what it is about. Curvy, okay. Elegant. Sorry? Dynamic. Movement, futurism, individuality. Another example? Yeah, I go faster. Collaborative, nature-driven, crafted. Last example. Community. I like that. Malaysia. I like that as well. Contextual, experiential, urban. Okay, so this means that the architecture that we do, and not only what we say to be, must also reflect what are the values of our approach to architecture. And these buildings or spaces are, in my opinion, a good example of that. Let's look now at how these same values may derive into their logotype design. Oh. Can any of you tell me what building, what practice is the first building? Huh? Don't know? Okay. The second building? BIG, okay. The third building? Okay. The fourth building? Snoheta. And the fifth? Okay, unknown practice. SOM, BIG, Saha, Snoheta. So when we think of SOM, we think about precision, timelessness, order. When we think of BIG, we think of boldness, playful design, provocation. Zaha Hadid, movement, futurism, individuality. Snoheta, collaborative, nature-driven, crafted. And this hypothetical practice, contextual, experiential, urban. So that means that who we claim to be, who we aspire to be, must reflect not only on the architecture that we do, but also in our logo and in everything that we do. The way we convey ourselves, the way we present ourselves, the way our website looks like. So in leading firms, like all those that we have seen, branding is not only about our logo, of our color scheme, it's about consistency in the experience about every touch point. From the concept sketches to the final building that we deliver, from the presentation decks to the digital presence, from the client's experience to the final user experience. Let's talk now about marketing. 10 minutes. Okay. So similarly, what is marketing? In architecture, marketing is the art of making your ideas visible before they are built and translating design into a story that the world wants to engage with. So why do we need marketing? Because great work is not enough if nobody remembers who did it. Let's look now at some traditional strategies of how practices or architects can position themselves, can market themselves, and how we can communicate that we exist and what we do and the value that shape our works. We can portray ourselves as thought leaders through our presence in industry forums or collaborations with academia, as through our curated website and social media, or through publications that are more structured and reflect our thinking. Or we can market ourselves through building relationships. And building relationships is not only with the clients that we engage with, but also through the quality of the buildings that we deliver and through the delivery of our services itself. So let's think about these practices that we saw before and how they market themselves. SOM does it through publication. They define themselves, they portray themselves as an authority through publishing, institutional and authority, promotes through academic quality research, large-scale case studies, and design engineering credibility. This is how they position themselves. BIG, through media, through narrative, and through the personality of the practice founder, his personal charisma. Zaha Hadid, through mind-blowing imaginary of the creations. Esnojeta, through community engagement and craftsmanship. And this other practice promotes itself by doing things. The buildings are created, the spaces are crafted, and people use them, and they experience them, and they talk about it. And this is their strength, their marketing tool. But there are less conventional marketing strategies. You can think of MBRDB in the Rotterdam rooftop walk, where they constructed this bridge over some of the rooftop of the buildings to promote the ability of roof spaces to become part of the city layers. Or salad dressing started creating square forests as an initiative to promote their rewilding initiative, adopting pockets in the city to revitalize the green, and eventually they constructed some of them. Or during COVID, they started to produce AI-generated landscape that became very visible and earned them some projects in very remote locations. But there are things that we can be very creative in our marketing strategies, but there is some frame to it as well. There are certain things that we can do and that we cannot do, or that we shouldn't do. And these are those that are recorded in the Architects Act, in the Architects Rules, certain LAM circulars, and we all know all this. We cannot call ourselves architects unless we are so. We cannot advertise our services based on fees or compare ourselves with others. We must promote ourselves with dignity and with facts. Let's go to some simpler examples of things that we can do, could do, but we shouldn't do, and that do not constitute ethical or constitute unethical examples of marketing. If you promote the burger looking like this, but then you get this, it's not so ethical as a marketing tool. So if our building looks like that in the render, perhaps it shouldn't look like that in reality. But there are many more promises, these very soft, hidden promises that we may be tempted to make. A cleaning product that cleans 5 times more, or that kills 99.9% of the germs, or a marketing brochure where some of the furniture pieces are clearly smaller than they are in reality, conveying the impression that the apartment is much larger than what it actually is. Well, there may be practices out there, I cannot think of any, that may promote themselves as the cheapest in town. So what are some of the takeaways from this session? We have dissected several clues of how we can use marketing and branding to boost our visibility. So what can we do next? We should define our personality as a practice, and that means defining the emotional character of our firm, the adjectives that we want people to associate with us when they think of us. We saw a few examples before. Are you rigorous? Are you experimental? Are you urban? Are you fancy? What do you want people to think about you and your practice? Adopt a challenger mindset. This means that if you may not be the market leader, lean towards what makes you different and position yourself as a challenger in that field. Are you faster than others? Are you more contextual, more collaborative, or more human in your approach? Use those peculiarities of your practice, of your personality, as a marketing tool. It's about the project, define what is your project profile, what is your domain, what are the typologies that you are an expert at, what is your strength? Or the quality of the experience. Beyond the aesthetics of the project, the buildings that we design, trust is a currency. So when you design, do you have in mind the detail, the buildability, the environmental performance of your buildings? And very importantly as well, what is your fee strategy? Do you want to position yourself as a fee appealing competitor, or do you want to entice others to pay a premium because what you can deliver is something that others cannot? What is your fee strategy? In the end, after all these exercises of self-reflection, you may learn that to discover who you are, you don't need to look at the mirror, but you need to look at your shadow, and you may find the superhero within you. Thank you. Do we have time for the quizzes? No. But I will try. Okay. The first exercise is about defining your ethos. It's about there was an introduction. If you don't define your brand, the market will, and it will probably not be flattering. So define your brand. Think about your ethos. So I would like to encourage you guys, if you can, using your phone, type 3 words that define, that recollect how you want others to perceive you, to perceive your brand. 3 words that define you and your practice. Is it bold? Is it enthusiastic? Is it trustable? Fast? 3 words. And once you have done so, I would like to invite any of you, the boldest perhaps, to explain why you have chosen those 3 words. Is there any volunteer? I see some typing, maybe replying WhatsApp messages. Rin, Said, Amy, anybody? Yeah, 3 words. No, why? Why you chose energy? Okay. Any other word? Tough audience. People, all these quotes, by the way, are extracted from articles from the Harvard Business Review that I read avidly. People don't fall in love with brands, they fall in love with the stories. I would like you to look at all these logos that we saw before and to think about which one resonates better with your own practice, and one of you, if possible, to explain why. Look at all these logos, which one is similar, feels more natural to what you do, or maybe even similar to your current logo, and why. Any volunteer? Huh? Well, about the color palette, about the font, about the structure of the logo, about the musicality of it. Any volunteer? I see a volunteer. Thank you very much.
I would consider it something from big resonating with mine
Okay.
because they are playful, they challenge out of the box ideas, and they really go on experimental architecture.
Great. Thank you. And you can see that from their logo. Can you? Right. Thank you. Great brands do not compete on a style, they compete on meaning. So, another self-awareness exercise. On a scale 1 to 5, from invisible to thought leader, rate yourself and think of one action to move forward by 1 point. So, I would like you to think of yourselves and your public presence. 1, you are invisible. 5, you are a thought leader. Where are you? 1 to 5. And then, wherever you may stand, think of one action that you will do next to take you up by 1 level. From 1 to 2, from 4 to 5. Does anybody of you want to share where you stand, where you feel that you stand? Please. All right.
So now I have published a book. It's outside with Bashir. Emotions Evoked in Spatial Creations. I didn't use the word architectural. It's meant for everyone, irregardless of whether you're an architect or not, especially for the new generation, in the kind of atmosphere you have to be in so that you can forget about the drugs and the phone and everything, and for the elderly to be present. Because now they are saying that the senior citizens are going to be getting larger and larger. So it's not just about buildings. I've been in the industry for 40 years, a construction arbitrator in 30 plus years, and I see where all the problems are. We technical people are not being respected. And especially when it comes to our fees, and we call it minimal fees. Why are we using the word minimal? Minimal means we have to do our basic services. But what's happening in reality is basic services are not being used. So now I'm speaking up. From being invisible, I'm taking one step up. My teacher is my son. He's my sifu. Asked me to get out there and do branding. So I've learned a lot from your presentation, and I think I'm going to do something on Instagram.
Thank you very much. You went up from 1 to 5.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the convener for asking me to come.
Every design decision that you make, indeed I will remove the word design, every decision that you make is branded. Even your silence online. So in this exercise, and maybe you don't need to answer now, I would like to encourage you to think when is the last time that you updated your website or you made a post on Instagram, or simply that you documented one of your projects to be able to be published or featured later. In a world of unlimited information, attention is the new architecture. So, a bit fun exercise, visibility through partnership and collaboration, I call it. Think about Royal Selangor, and there are multiple collaborations with brands. How they did not feel that it would cloud their visibility, but to the contrary, it would boost it. I would like to encourage you now, or later, to take a picture with another architect in the room from another practice, not from your own practice, and to post it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you like, and to think or to see whether you get more likes or less likes. What is the impact of collaborating with others, and how it can boost our visibility first and our presence. Your brand isn't what you say it is. It's what people tell others that you are. Last exercise. I would like you to think of 3 clients of yours, 3 repeat clients of yours, and to think about these 2 things. What do the 3 of them have in common? And what make them, or what make you keep or retain them as clients? 3 clients of yours, repeat clients, what do they have in common? And why do you think that you manage to retain them? And in the answer may be your strength and your market position as well. And last, 93% of executives say that brand building drives growth, but most treat it as decoration. Let's not treat our branding, our market positioning, and our marketing as decoration. It really helps to boost our business. I will skip this part, and I will just thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Architect Dr. Miguel, for that insightful and inspiring talk. So now we will move on to our panel discussion and toolkit session. where our speakers will come together and to share their thoughts, exchange ideas, and discuss how we can put today's lessons into real practice. So as we begin, our team members will be distributing handouts to everyone. This will serve as part of the toolkits activity. Something practical that you can bring back and apply in your own work. Now let's welcome our all speakers back on stage for this exciting discussion.
Mana Anis? The code, Slido code. The stage is open, the mic is there. If anybody have any question, you can stand up and introduce yourself and ask away. Okay. Yeah, you can. Thank you for the question. Okay, we just have 20 minutes before we end the workshop, guys. So this is the time to ask anything if you have anything that you want to ask. But if you are shy, you can just scan that Slido code and ask away, and then we'll just read the questions for you. Tuan Syed, you have a question for Miguel. Oh, okay, ask away.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
I
Yeah.
do have a
For the
question
tax ladies.
for the e-invoice.
E-invoice. Okay, yeah. Cool. Yes.
In our practice, sometimes do we have what we call architects was appointed as the lead consultants, and other consultants are appointed as under us as a sub consultants. So they bill their fee to us, and we bill their fee to the clients. In the context of e-invoicing, how does it work?
Okay, so so basically it should follow normal invoicing practice. So currently they already issue you an invoice, right? So they should issue you an e-invoice, and you also issue invoice to your customer now. So it will be an e-invoice that's issued. So your practice, typically whatever you are already doing from an invoicing perspective, it's just that now you do it for e-invoicing. It doesn't change, yeah.
That answer your question? Don't say it. Okay. All right. Okay, and this one. Okay, we have a few questions actually in Slido, tapi I need to vet through. There's 15 questions. Some of the questions actually they have submitted in the questionnaire, and I think during your talk, you have actually answered that question. I'm not sure if the person who gave this question is aware, but you guys should be aware if you're listening to the session. Okay. So I would not repeat that question. So soalan pertama. Semua ni saya nak read soalan dia. Okay, one question about marketing and firms, maybe Tuan Syed or Miguel. How can a small practice build a stronger brand presence without heavy marketing costs? Who would like to? Yes.
I know how a big practice does that with big marketing costs. I'm not sure how a small practice does it.
Yep.
But from the 5 examples that I showed, I forgot to mention the size of the respective practices. SOM, 2,000 people, BIG, 700 people, Sahadid, 500, Snoheta, 300, and that fifth practice, 20 people. So for most of you, what it will resonate is that smaller setting and how we now do the things that we do. And I think that the most effective branding tool, and it has been as well my personal brand as a solo individual, so what I sell when I liaise with a client or with consultants, is that what you do is the best testimony of who you are. So for these 10 years practicing in Malaysia, I have clients that have returned to me even after leaving Veritas because they wanted to work with me. And it has nothing to do with any corporate marketing effort. It has simply to do with how I did my work. And in other instances, the buildings that we build, when we manage to complete them, and often takes very long, are also a great testimony of what we can deliver. And now in this new practice or setting, we have a great amount of clients and potential clients who approach us because they have visited some of these spaces and they want to do that. So when we cannot afford the cost, the investment on the marketing, paying a marketing executive to keep our social media updated, our website updated, and etc., what we can do is doing our job damn well, so people will come back to us because they like dealing with us, they like the experience of our own self-personal brand, or the buildings that we have delivered after certain years of practice, they visit them and they want something like that. So what we do and what we eventually deliver when we are a small group of people or a solo individual is the best marketing tool.
We have about two. We have one question to the two ladies, Janani and Jenny. Okay, many architects work on project-based or milestone payments. So how does SST or e-invoicing handle this irregular billing cycle? That's the question.
That's the question.
In practice.
Irregular.
Yeah, so for e-invoicing, okay, so milestone billing, because it's looking at your turnover, right, for the year. So typically once for e-invoicing, and I think even for SST, once you hit the threshold, so say in the first year you're already 500K, right? So you already have triggered the e-invoicing requirement. Say in the subsequent year, maybe because of progress billing, it went to 400, then next year 600, then like 300, so on. You already are registered for e-invoicing, you just need to go through with it. It's not like, oh, in the year that you are not hitting the threshold, you
It's
just
not
don't.
a yearly or monthly.
It's
thing.
once you're in, you're in.
Or once you hit that threshold,
You're in it forever. Yeah.
You're in forever.
Yeah.
Even if the next year you're making less.
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh dang. Okay. Oh.
Maybe
okay,
I'll just
guys,
add on for
you hear
service
it.
tax, yeah.
All
So
right.
once you are registered, you hit the threshold first and you are registered, then you should be charging the service tax regardless if your income goes below 500K. If you cease business, then you can get yourself deregistered. Or if you stop providing those taxable service, then you can seek for deregistration. But however, do take note that customs will always do a verification to make sure that you can be deregistered. Yeah.
So is it possible you deregister yourself and then register again?
Then the question is, will customs allow you to deregister yourself, knowing that you're still in the business?
We cannot just deregister ourselves.
Yeah, it's a process that you need to, it's an application that you need to submit to customs if you want to deregister yourself. So far what I've seen is customs will always ask questions or get supporting documents from you to really be sure that you should be deregistered. Because if you deregister, means customs is not getting taxes from you.
Can I ask a question to whether the tax departments make sure that architects get paid according to the
No.
law according to the Architects Act? Or why do clients do shopping like chow kit mentality and ask for the cheap fee? Then how are you going to pay the tax? So there are laws regarding the fees of the architect. I'm speaking from what I've seen as an arbitrator where we professionals are not being treated according to the law. So now can the customs department and the tax department make sure that architects are paid according to the architect's fee, according to the Architects Act?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's really out of customs purview. Their role is to collect taxes, so.
We're on our own, guys.
The architects to check it out.
Yeah. There's one question here. It's asking about tax. Might as well we're talking about tax first. The question is, what is the tax strategies should be considered for business earning less than 500K? Is there any tax they need to think about tax if they haven't actually reached that 500K threshold?
Okay, for service tax, if you haven't reached the threshold, then the first thing is you should continuously monitor. If you're maybe at 10,000, then probably you're safe. But if you're at a 400K and you know that, okay, maybe a little more projects, I will hit it soon. So you have to continuously monitor that threshold to make sure that once you are liable, you submit that registration. You do the right thing. Get ready, correct. Continuous monitoring. Yeah.
Can I have a question here?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Okay. Okay, my question is about registration with SST.
SST question, Shani.
As far as my experience is, when you submit your quotation, as all you know, currently, even for consultation, they go through tender stage. Okay, when you submit your quotation, okay, those who is not registered with SST actually have some advantage. You realize that, right?
Yes.
So I know some of us is try not to reach that 500K, or some of them even split into a few companies so that the turnover is not more than 500K, just not to be registered. Okay, that's just some information there. But talking about deregistration just now, the condition for deregistration is only when you close down the business?
And
Or-
when you cease providing that taxable
Okay,
service.
what about we have registered, and at some point I think we slowed down a little bit or a lot, and we foresee for the next future we're not going to reach a turnover of more than 500K over any given 12 months. Can we deregister?
Will you still be providing the same services?
Yes, but no longer will be reaching 500,000 over 12 months.
No, you're still providing the same service.
So meaning that when you register, you cannot deregister.
Yes.
I see.
You can try your luck. But
Unlikely lah.
yeah. Either you cease providing that service, or you close business, or you cease providing that taxable service.
All right.
Okay, so maybe just going to add from the earlier, I think there was clarification on so there's no service tax if you're below 500,000. So just to be very clear, service tax falls under the purview of customs, the Royal Malaysian Customs Department, but your corporate tax and your personal tax falls under the purview of the Inland Revenue Board. So they are two separate taxes, so you may find that, you have to pay two different taxes. But they are separate, and so while you may not fall under the purview of the service tax requirement for registration, you still do need to pay your corporate tax and personal tax. Just wanted to clarify.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Janani. There's one question here, Tuan Said. To Tuan Said and Architect Miguel, how do you deal with projects that's delayed for more than 1 year, but the fee remain? How do you manage your office operation and expenditure about project delays?
I think that's one of the risks that we take from the very first day that you should be aware of. And yes, and obviously when the project delays mean there is or there was not much activities on site. Normally, project delays happen during the constructions. There are also project delays during the development, design development. Client doesn't make their decisions, just take their own sweet time when they come to this site. So, proportionally, if we reflect that when the project delays, there is not much things for you need to do. So over that time, over that period of time, you have to reorganize your resources. There are people, or maybe you have assigned project architect for that particular project. When the project is running so smooth, that particular architect is only focused on that project. Now it delays. You may have to reassign him. So that's within your own capacity. You have to reorganize yourself, minimize what you need to do. The bottom line, you still have to serve. You still have to serve. At the end of the day, as Miguel said, your service will reflect yourself. Your service is the biggest, the best marketing. And another one, I know there are some architects if the projects prolong over so many years, and they start negotiating with the clients on what we call as prolongation fees. Yes, some of the client may consider that, and you maybe have to put forward your case to argue the client. Due to the delay, the client is losing, and one way for the client to recompensate their loss is by LD, isn't it? So that LD is actually one of the client, and the loss of the client is because you are asking more fee, the client have to pay more fee. That can be actually deducted from the LD. It's coming from the contractors anyway. He's the one who make the problem. He's the one who have to pay for it. So depending on the ways on the project, on the delays, there are ways for you to manage it. The bottom line, you still have to complete your service. The bottom line, it is within your capacity to organize yourself. At the end of the day, and it's your service that we value.
Yeah. I remember having this same conversation with one of our clients once, and he told me, well, Miguel, unfortunately, your services are not time-based, are project-based. So that means that if your services, if I appoint you guys as architects for this project, it's not for 1 year, it may be for 100 years, and your fee does not change. So that's reality of it. 2 points in addition to trying to claim for abortive fees or for prolongation fees that many clients may be unwilling to entertain, and that's the reality that we face. But many of them also do, so I'm not so negative about that. Many of our clients are understanding, and as a business development decision, I will also place myself in a place where I say, okay, if you treat me like this way, never ever imagine to work with me again. And I put the block, not the client to me, but I do to the client. But having been exposed to several projects in my former office that were delayed, maybe of a greater scale, 2 simple tips. The first one is that when the delay happens during construction, that is very often, and our fee gets diluted over a longer time, what I do is to adjust the team to 1/3 of the monthly fee that I receive during construction. So if, for example, say, the monthly fee is 30,000, my salary cost for that month, or for that year, or whatever it is, including myself and the rest of the team, working in the team, cannot exceed 10,000. So I keep the overhead to 1/3. And that means that the client will eventually see that the attendance to the meetings is selective, that the team attending the meetings is not as senior, or that the frequency of the meetings entertained is less. And they will need to understand and live with it, as we need to live with a stretch fee. And the other one, and I'm glad that Syed mentioned, because it's a very creative way of addressing this matter that we have inserted in some of our LOAs, where Syed mentioned before that some of the current contracts that some clients issue to architects include liquidated damages and EOT and all these things that, well, I don't know, some creative lawyer may suggest them to put. So we, being equally creative, have set back-to-back clauses in some of our LOAs where we say that when the project is delayed, we shall be entitled to additional fee that may be back charged to the contractor. And in the in our LOA with the client, we state that when the client is entitled to a certain compensation from the contractor, the architect shall be able to claim our compensation from that fee or from that compensation. And some clients have signed it because there is no loss to them. So yeah, that's a good and creative way to address that.
Yeah, that's a good tips. Take note. All right, any other questions here? They're right. Okay, thank you. Because we are at 1 p.m. All right, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to an end, very, very much thank you to all of our speakers and to all of our participants. The handouts, Anis, the print out, right? This is the QR code for all the handouts which we have given to you guys, and also the handouts from that guidelines, right? That guidelines, that 400 pages is also here. So do click and download and have a read. Okay, thank you so much. And also a special appreciation again to Nippon Paint and to our PAM POP committee for organizing this event. But before we adjourn for lunch, a gentle reminder that later today, 3 p.m., we have our EGM PAM here at this same hall. Please stay on and participate if you can stay on. So we hope today's workshop has inspired you to build not just building, but your architectural brand. So thank you once again for being here. The lunch is served at the ground floor. Please have a pleasant afternoon. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to our speakers again. All right, thank you. Assalamualaikum.